I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Moore,
Here.
Councilman Neely,
Present.
Councilman Isili,
Present.
Councilman Pell,
Here.
Councilwoman McNamara. Here.
All right, thank you. So we're going to start the meeting today, the work session, with a discussion about a proposed land disturbance code. And now Seth Race is here with us, the planner, Sean Cambridge, Assistant Town Attorney, Ryan Murphy, Public Safety and Emergency Management Administrator, and Janice Shear, our Town Planning and Development Administrator, is on her way. But we can get started with the conversation.
Good morning, Supervisor Moore, members of the board. So this is the product of, I would say, dozens of meetings, a couple years' worth of various drafts. This was a group that had reassembled to put this draft together. This is based on best practice in the area, what other municipalities have found to be sustainable models, things that have survived challenges in court. So a great deal of labor and effort has been put into this draft. And Seth prepared an overview of it, so I'll let him walk the board through that first.
Yes, so the town seeks to create legislation that'll provide clear guidance for the permitting of land disturbance town-wide as it pertains to the removal of natural vegetation and the alteration of grade. These have specific thresholds in certain residential and commercial properties. Those would be 500 square feet on residential properties, larger than 20,000 square feet, and greater than 1,000 square feet on commercial properties, with the size limitation there being anything under 40,000 square feet, that would not apply in the commercial area. The purpose of this new ordinance is to safeguard the citizenry, protect property, prevent damage to the environment by regulating land disturbance activities that may cause erosion, sedimentation, flooding, degradation of drinking water, and the loss of healthy and resilient natural habitats. What we've put together is an amalgamation of many different codes from Long Island, New York, and we've looked far and wide throughout the nation for best practices in this area. We have come to the conclusion that it is wise for the town to start to consider the amount of land disturbance that takes place while we are developing our commercial and residential properties at the initiation of that development. Oftentimes, I have found in the planning division doing the revegetation and site disturbance that it is an afterthought, and I'm left with picking up the pieces, so to speak, after the clearing and grading has taken place. It is what I am able to create is a far cry from what we could do if we got ahead of this development and put in some parameters for us to regulate the amount of grading and removal of trees or natural vegetation on each site.
Does this apply to just vacant land or to already developed properties?
This would be town-wide developed properties, both commercial and residential. Again,
Whether it's vacant or already has a house or a building on it?
that's correct. I would say that one of our main thrusts was to look at vacant properties. We are calling them undeveloped. We have defined them as undeveloped land. But we do want to have a special provision in this code to say vacant parcels or parcels that have been left to revegetate over 20 years have special protections, and that no clearing shall take place prior to a land disturbance permit being issued.
Before you go into the specifics of the various provisions of this bill, would Ryan, would you mind commenting on just some of the aspects of how this, the current situation impacts code enforcement?
Sure. So, we do get a fair number of calls and complaints and SOSs on an annual basis, and some of them come in as clearing or over clearing, and some of them just kind of tend to come in as, you know, building without a permit type complaints. But often the observation that leads to that call for building without a permit starts with some sort of land development activity that then sends a signal to, you know, neighbors, passersby, whoever it happens to be. There's something going on that property. It's a triggering type observation that then like says, okay, they're building. It kind of just naturally takes that assumption that if there's land clearing and development activity, the next thing that you would expect to see is some sort of a construction going on. And if there are no posted permits or anything like that, that then prompts people to reach out to us. One of the problems that we have is that if a property is just cleared too, whether that's a previously undeveloped property or a property that already has development on it and they're just expansively clearing more of the property for an intended improvement to that property, a new structure going onto it, an expansion or whatever the case might be, if what they intend to do isn't approved, the clearing's already happened, and now you've just got this either vacant parcel that's cut cleared down to the ground, or clearing on a part of the parcel that maybe whatever they intended to develop doesn't meet the criteria from our code in terms of planning and development for the town. So this prompts people that when it exceeds the thresholds that are identified in here, with the desired clearing exceeds those thresholds or would hit them, they need to come and seek approval, so that you almost then know your project is going to have the capability to move forward, rather than clearing and then finding out, I thought I could build a storage facility in the middle of a residential neighborhood or something like that. I can't. Property's already cleared. Things like that happen. And then we also have topographic shifts in land that have an impact on us too, where we've got building up or shifting of the natural topography of the land, which then creates stormwater runoff situations with other properties and things like that. So it's not just necessarily clearing of vegetation, it's those changes in natural topography of the land too that have impacts on surrounding properties, the roadways, whatever the case might be, because now we're shifting the way that stormwater runs around on a property too. So we deal with a lot of that on a pretty regular basis. And I have experience in other jurisdictions where the land development aspect of things is the triggering first step, that you really can't start to do land development without having a building permit. That's considered part of the whole process. And I think what we've done here is kind of recognize that almost and bring that in as you need to come in and get, kind of project approval before you exceed these things, or
because we don't have anything
to preserve some of it.
And primarily because, and maybe this is a planning question, but primarily because we don't have anything in place that says before you clear, you have to come get a permit first.
Unless somebody's in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District,
Right.
There's nothing that restricts just complete clearing of a property with zero intention to do anything with it, articulated beforehand. So that's a problem for us.
Invaluable point. Is in the planning division, we often field calls. I would like to know what my clearing restrictions are. The first thing we do is look to see, well, if you're in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, then we have some parameters, the percentages of the lot that you're allowed. If you're outside of the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, you can clear as much as you like. So that is the rub, where 43,000 acres of the town under the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, they are protecting our aquifer, and secondarily, they are preserving the grade and the natural vegetation. The other part of the town is not doing their share, I would put forth, in protecting those grades and the natural vegetation.
So do these new standards that you created mimic the Aquifer Protection Overlay District standards?
That was a challenge, and we certainly developed that idea, but it turns applying a straight percentage to lots that have been developed, probably a mishmash of percentages across the board, we could not apply a percentage in that case because there's too much variability between what we find outside of the Aquifer Protection Overlay District.
So it's two comments on that. I would say it's not as restrictive as Aquifer Protection Overlay District. I think. I don't think. I would argue that it's not as restrictive. Flat out. But the second point on it too, with why it's also not like a percentage-based type formula, we looked at that. We looked over the last 5 or 6 years. We looked at tree diameter 4 feet above grade and this and that. It has to be capable of enforcement too. So like the more granular you make it with 10% versus 20% versus 30%, this has to be easily observable in most cases from either the street or the front of the property. Getting up to the trunk of a tree and measuring it at 4 feet above ground to try and get a sense of diameter. That was a very restrictive. That old version from probably 5 years ago was a very restrictive attempt at trying to come up with a flat out clearing restriction. But this, even when we started to look at some of those percentages, had to try and kind of keep it as simple as possible too, so that from an enforcement standpoint, it could just be done without needing special tools, really specified training and knowledge and experience to be able to pull it off. It had to be able to fit into the enforcement capabilities that we have.
So a surveyor would be the appropriate person to, working for, a developer or somebody, would be the surveyor that would be marking this out as part of the survey process?
I would say so, because this is an area, square footage, 500 square feet for residential, 1,000 for commercial. The surveyor and the applicant, or I should say the owner of the property, would figure out how much area they plan on disturbing on their lot. It could be shown through a survey or other submission. We have other types of submissions, photography,
Oh, right.
things
I
of
did
that
see
nature. We're not
something.
trying to make it overly burdensome. But yeah, it isn't, the trigger is the square footage of disturbance on the lot.
But if you're going to take out 6, 7, 8 trees, on a lot potentially, it's not going to hit 500 square feet on it. This allows for routine homeowner maintenance and things like that to occur on a lot.
So if all I have on my property is 10, 12-inch diameter giant oak trees, I can remove all of them without a permit, because it's not more than 500 square feet.
If it doesn't hit the 500 square feet.
Don't worry.
Well, depending on the size of your lot.
There's different types of codes we looked at, and that would be more like a heritage tree code, and that's not this. This is just back to basics. If you want to clear, you just need a permit. Like if this is the beginning. If you want to then expand this idea to heritage trees or very large
We talked about
diameter
that, and we talked
trees,
about that.
That's sort of a separate initiative. So to answer your question, you would be able to. Is that a tragic loss of like old growth trees? Probably, but they're yours if it's
But
your
those are
property.
usually like a lot of the complaints we get, or there's my next door neighbor has these giant beautiful oak trees and they just cut them all down. What can they
So
do
if
that?
were
Yeah,
all-
they can.
If they're
Right.
disparate
And
around
they-
the
and
lot,
under
if
this, they
they're
would
all
still be able to.
aggregated within a 500 square foot area, then you would need a permit.
And then in the same same point, 500 square feet, it's, it sounds like a lot, but it's really, 20 feet by 25 feet. You have a 3-acre lot and you want to clear an area 20 by 25 for your kids for a swing set, you now need a permit to do that.
Correct. But we try to make it pretty easy to get one. But if you don't have that first instance of requiring a permit, we have no enforcement as it goes down the line, right? So it might just be for a swing set, or it might just be your whole lot. But if you don't require a permit in either case, we have no regulatory power there to like start that.
And
Look at it.
And
So-
if the
so-
lot's already gotten a certain percentage of clearing on it as approved in the initial planning process with the development of the lot, then it may already have all that room on it already.
Well, there's a history component here where we look at like, what's your lot? We look back at aerials. We do the same thing we kind of already do. We look at aerials for APOD anyway, see how long has the lot been cleared. They've been this way. We take into consideration, we're not trying to go back in time. It's way
Right.
forward.
And this is
And
only-
so if something's already cleared,
Then it's
you're not
already
getting
cleared.
penalized for that.
Right.
This is only for trees, so the underbrush you can clear without a permit.
It's,
structural
right now, it's
vegetation.
land disturbance, so it's underbrush,
Anything.
trees, grading,
Vegetation, yeah.
anything within a 500 square feet or more requires.
And I just want to say that we were mainly focusing on trees, Bill, but Ryan suggested we need to look at land disturbance more broadly, because it's not just trees that are being cleared, it's also the alteration of the topography.
And I find, more often than not, folks that are building a swing set for their kids or something like that, they're inclined to reach out, and I think Ryan can speak to this, they'll know the code enforcement officer or the building inspector for the area, and they say, hey, is this okay, or do I need a permit? That demographic is doing it. We're trying to capture the folks that are clear cutting a lot, that are saying, this is going in here today, this is the cost of doing business. So that's the intention of this, is we want to stop that practice. We have no other mechanism to do that. And part of this conversation really has to be, we always hear, well, people at home will fire up their chainsaws because the town's contemplating this. Well, no, you won't. We've deliberately planned this. There is no clearing allowed right now as per New York State DEC. So we're in a window where you are not
Currently,
allowed to
because of-
clear anyways.
Actually,
We're in the
until,
clearing
we're in the
window right
clearing
now.
window until
Yeah.
March 1st.
Right.
So,
Right now, you can clear until March 1st.
so we want to structure this.
February
27th.
20.
The end of
Oh, I'm
February,
sorry,
March
yeah, but it
1st,
doesn't
I
include
think.
March, right?
It does.
Okay.
We want to pass this to coincide where people would not be clearing, and, we're not the only regulatory authority. So just because the town doesn't have a way to regulate you does not mean you're free and clear to clear cut your property. DEC, sometimes Department of Health at the county,
But only during certain times.
certain times of the year. Right, so this is an attempt to take local control of this issue.
Right.
And to preserve the character of neighborhoods, wildlife corridors, things of that nature.
So, yeah, and we're going to try to make the permit process, not onerous, but there is a, process. So if that's, we've worked with Councilman Isilli to come up with like the beginning. If you want to, there's other options of always available to you if you didn't want to do this, but we think this was the compromise of let's start at the beginning type of
So
require
let me
a permit.
understand, so you decided that anything under half an acre, they can do what they want, no restrictions, and that's because,
You need,
Small
it's a
anyway.
smaller lot, so you, in reality, in order to live on that lot, to put a house on it, to put a pool, a swing set, whatever it happens to be, you're gonna need to use the whole lot. Like, it's a smaller lot, so, to try and impose buffers and restrictions on something of that size is probably, it almost starts to render a lot like unusable at a certain point, depending on the
Well,
percentages that you look at.
I also know
So-
too, when we were first looking at this and we were shopping around to some of the civics, obviously they all want to see something like this in place. But, one of the things that had come up was, well, what if I just need to get rid of a couple trees to put this up, or, such as a swing set or something else of the sort. They didn't want anything to burden them for taking down just a couple trees to.
And dead trees.
Dead trees
disease
is
and
another-
dead
which is an
accounted
exemption in
for
this
in-
law.
Yes, exactly.
but anything less than 500 square feet, you don't need the permit, you can do what you want.
Yes.
There is a section devoted to exemptions. Another case in point would be emergency situations where you could issue a stay on land disturbance permits because there's been a large storm. General maintenance and upkeep. Other jurisdictions, they also obviously have a say in certain cases.
I did have a question on that. I don't know if we're going to go line by line through it or not, but I did have a question on that particular
exemptions?
point. Yeah, the
Okay.
legislation says weather events.
Yes.
What about a fire? What if there's a,
69.6 is what we should be turning to.
Catastrophic weather event.
right.
Hazardous, dead, dying, catastrophic weather event.
So
I don't
Because
know if
you
we're ever
say
going to have a
catastrophic
tidal wave
event.
or an earthquake, but there was a situation, I think, in East Quogue a couple of years ago on that Discovery Land property where there was a fire set and they had to get special permissions to go in and do whatever they had to do to that burned-out area.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you,
Or other event, and
We
cover that.
had general language that we put into one that we just did with Michael for emergency, states of emergency and
Yep.
events. We can just add the language in.
Yeah, that'd be great.
yeah.
Thank you, Tom. I think one of the versions that were put before us previously had something where it impacted just a buffer around the property, so that for neighbor protection, I assume that was, so you can't clear anything within maybe 10 feet of the property line, but within the property line you could. Was that something that you worked on, or?
That was a draft that was presented, I believe, at a work session. And from an ecological standpoint, we found that, land management found that was breaking up wildlife corridors. So you'd eliminate a tract that was essential to preserve on a property just by making a box, where maybe there wasn't vegetation separating a property before that. And that's usually the area that is going to be planted deliberately with hedge lines and things like that.
Although I think what I've heard is that the neighbors don't like that people take out the mature trees and they put all the arborvitae. Everybody's doing the arborvitae.
Well, if we had a permit system, we could look at what they're trying to do and say, why are you doing this? What about this? And you have this gorgeous tree right here, how about you,
Yeah.
we can start having that dialogue.
But
But
the
if you don't have a
box
system,
isn't
we're
a
not
good-
hearing about it until it's
That's not
already done.
incorporated in
This gets you involved earlier in the process than,
In a collaborative process where we can help steer where the jungle gym goes, instead of it being put in, taking down some trees on that property, perhaps we can discuss, could you move it into the area that you've already cleared and developed? Maybe in the lawned area, that would be a good spot. We're trying to work with residents and
See, this is,
to steer that, not to prohibit, but to help guide where we can maintain some of that natural grade and natural.
And sometimes the answer is, well, this is the only place I want to put it because of X, Y, and Z. And then the answer is, okay, that you get a permit. I mean, we have to have that dialogue to understand where people
Well,
are coming from.
maybe you could plant something else to offset that.
so this has always been my issue with this, and you can see it already in the APOD, right? The contractors are gonna figure this code out, they're gonna cost it into the cost of doing business, and it is what it is. They'll clear what they wanna clear, they'll revegetate, they'll know what they have to do going into it, and they'll have it figured out by next week. It's the homeowners that wanna clear a 500 square foot area for their kids, for a swing set, for a pool, for now, we're talking about landscape architects, we're talking about all kinds of other things, and it's just, it becomes another permit, another thing you have to do, another thing you have to comply with to do a minor improvement on your property that you worked your butt off to get. And the contractors I'm not worried about, that's what I think my main concern is these contractors are going in and clear cutting a lot with no, but this is gonna end up penalizing the regular homeowners. It's not just gonna be for major construction projects, that's gonna be in the cost of doing business. This is gonna be making it more expensive for regular homeowners and families to do small projects on their
Suggesting,
homes.
would it be better if it didn't apply to already developed properties then? So if somebody already owns the home? Is
Yeah,
that
I
what
mean,
you're
I'm
saying?
fine with clearing restrictions on undeveloped property, that's fine, but even in this code, you're now saying if you revegetate over 20 years, you're now subject to this. So now I have a cleared lot, I'm not gonna let it revegetate, because why would I wanna let it revegetate when now I'm gonna be subject to another code on it?
well, I think the
You could change the percentages, or if you think 500 square feet is too
I just, on
too
a
small
on a
of an
half acre
area.
lot, it's a,
But they're exempt, so we're talking over.
just over a half acre lot it's a
1
small
acre.
area.
Like, you can decide, you want to apply this to larger lots and exempt.
Yeah, if you want to go from
you know.
half acre to 3/4 acre or even acre, you could.
In terms
and
of,
do that, and then apply this to anything over that if.
But we have a lot of people who, it's not always the penalty, it's always, yes, you're looking out for the little guy, but they have their contractors too. And they have the people that come clear cut just as much as any other, quote unquote developer.
And that's
So
something
people call a
discussed,
tree
too.
company just like anyone else, and then they're stuck. And we're, in land management, I can tell you, we're not gonna just sanction everybody to go straight to a re-veg plan because they cleared it. You're gonna go to court, You're gonna go through the whole process and then come back, which is another deterrent.
But my whole thing
if
is
you clear it.
Janice, I've seen this play out in APOD, right? I've seen somebody clear cut a lot, go through the legal process, get a re-veg plan, re-veg, get their CO, rip it out and do what they want to do anyway.
Well, I mean, that's, people can flout the law, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't legislate anything.
It has to be, if you're gonna put this kind of onerous thing on our staff, on the planning board, on all of these people that are involved, it has to play out where it's enforceable and it's gonna be upheld.
So we're trying to work
Well,
together.
that's why we brought Ryan in and we had Janice in on this. That's why we brought Sean and Seth in, because we want to make sure that this isn't going to be onerous on the staff. In fact, that was your comment the first time that we had this go before the work session, Cindy, was that you wanted to make sure that planning in particular had more capability here to deal with a process. And that's why Janice worked really diligently here to carve out various aspects of this law that would allow the staff to have more of an easy way to go about regulating this. And so another reason why Ryan was such a critical part of this. I don't think that this is onerous on the staff whatsoever. I think this is at least starting with a framework, a regulatory framework. I mean, this is a board that is concerned about the clearing of a lot of lands, are we not, especially in Hampton Bays. I think that this, in essence, creates a framework for us to really take a look at what is and what isn't in the law, to give an opportunity for us to finally get started on environmental impacts. This is I think a real issue that the constituency of Southampton Town has been clamoring for years.
But I don't think they want to see it become onerous on existing homeowners that are
I
just
don't
trying
think that,
to do things.
I agree with you. Then that's why the first law, the notion of it affecting a tree or two trees is onerous, but this is 500. I mean, explain the again, the square foot requirements. Sure. What does that equate to if we were to put that into like images side by side? Can you use examples of what we're talking about? 500 square feet?
Half of a swimming pool. Half of a 20
Yeah, I
by
had a
40
question
swimming pool.
about that. How do you measure? Because if I have, say, somebody has 3/4 of an acre, and the trees aren't contiguous, or you wanted to say, this one's causing too much shade and it's making moss, but over here, so do you measure like by the tree?
No, it's like a box of an area. Like, here's your lot, and here's your house, and here's your rear yard, and you're like, well, I want to clear, this. What does that equate to?
But what if you want to just take like random trees
That
down?
does not require a permit. It's an aggregated. We're not doing, and then you can, but we're not doing tree by tree permit. We're doing land disturbance by a certain area. So if I'm taking one tree out in the back and one over in the front on the side, there's no permit.
And if those trees fall into the category that they're either dead, diseased, or dying, if they're creating a hazard to the house or something like that, if your insurance requires that, they see it as a fall hazard to the house or something like that, that risk management and your insurance company tells you they want to see you remove these trees, whatever, you can do it because it falls into any of those categories still. So
We have a process for that too, where you say, and we do that now anyway, in APOD or whatever, when people had like southern pine beetle, they come in, we go do, we take a quick look, make sure, and then we give them like a memo and they go clear them.
So as for residences, I mean, that's, we're at a work session stage, so we could always change that number to address Cindy's concern about, because I also don't want it to affect homeowners, if they're just simply looking to, again, put something in, like a swimming pool or whatnot, but
How big is the pool?
20 by 40 is a standard pool, and this is 20 by 25, would require a permit.
So if you want to, we put in just our best
Well, you would need a
guess
permit.
number.
I mean, you would need a permit if
Yeah,
you're going to put a pool in
but you don't need
anyway.
the land clearing permit right now.
Right.
So if you want to change that number, we're more than open to hear that, and obviously that's public dialogue too, to hear what it always comes down to this magic number that someone is going to tell us.
You need a permit for the pool anyway.
Yeah.
Yes, but that doesn't, yes, but we don't take into consideration the clearing aspect, so.
Of the pool.
Of the pool.
And to the Ryan, to the enforcement aspect, of a pool permit or a building permit or whatever, if somebody, let's use the pool example, They clear in the backyard thinking they can put in a pool, but maybe they find out they can't put a pool in that particular location because of, setbacks and, other issues like this. What this does is allow you to go in, look at this based on the clearing permit, and if somebody then applies for a building permit, can you stop them from getting their building permit, which would be a deterrent to somebody coming in and clearing it and then saying sorry later? Because this was a huge issue at the planning board.
Yeah.
I mean, Seth dealt with this in a great manner, but
Yeah,
this was a huge issue with the
kind of
planning
the
board.
other. You make a valid point there because it's kind of the other way of looking at this too. Like, yes, it's an additional permit potentially. Like, if you were going to do a pool, you would have to do a pool permit, but now you have to also potentially get the clearing. But when you look at it from the perspective of like, well, can you put the pool there? Like, is the pool that you want to do too big? Is it observing the side yard, backyard setback, rear yard setbacks, like stuff like that? This almost brings the person in to talk to somebody first to make sure that whatever that plan is works before they actually start to then like go into the next process. Because if the pool that you wanted isn't the pool that you can have, well, maybe you wouldn't have cleared. Maybe you would have let it sit a little bit longer or redesigned or figured out what it was going to be before you just started to do that. But if there's no clearing restriction and you want to put the pool in, you want it, and you know you're going to apply,
We just
but
have
it can't be what you want in the end. Like, maybe you would have rethought, like, I don't know.
It's not a
I think
new
it still brings the
scenario
person
either,
in for the conversation.
It says nothing shall preclude the issuance of a land disturbance permit in coordination with the building permit.
Oh, so they work lockstep.
100% together. It's
Similar
not,
to what we're already
Shouldn't
doing.
extend the
can't do it,
process.
and now I can't
Right.
get my pool. It's just saying, okay, is this 500, your land disturbance permit gets,
It's now becoming,
together
it's now becoming a box that has to get checked. When you go before the building department, you're now gonna have to check that box of any clearing requirements or restrictions. You have to fulfill those obligations based on the
you
law.
wanna make it bigger than, 20 by 40 then, so it's not captured in a pool thing, then you would make it 800. Anything greater than 800 square feet. So then no one's
I'm fine with that.
combined with the
But
pool.
Tom's point is that they come in clearing and then they find out they can't put the
But,
pool in.
but
does
we're
not-
still putting in the
that doesn't-
requirements as
Go to the
part of the
ZBA.
process.
Well, yeah, then you would have to get it back. Yeah.
We're
No,
putting.
But you could go to 800. I mean, if you wanted to, you could go to 800 square feet to
Well,
accommodate a standard pool or
if it's
something like that.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point. You don't want it to be too overbearing. But like you said, Ryan, I think you really kind of hit the nail on the head here. You want to be able to make sure that when people are going about doing something like that, whether they are a resident or a contractor, they're coming to the building department. They're realizing what they have to do beforehand. I think that this law is establishing that process.
Right. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people, you get an idea and you're like, I want to put this pool here. I want to put this deck here. I want to do that. I want to do the other thing. As long as you're willing to pay for it, you're going to find somebody out there that'll come in and do it for you. And then you find out later on that, oh, there was a setback. Oh, there was a this. Oh, there was like, because once the construction starts,
Or
then
the
you get
slope.
flagged and, it brings you in. Again, I think the dialogue before the project starts has value so that you make sure that whatever your end goal is meets whatever the criteria of the code is, and you're not going to get jammed up later on by not observing setbacks, by being over certain limits, or whatever the case is. But at the same time, I mean, if we wanted to, I'm not dug in on, the 5 versus 8 for the purposes of accommodating
Right.
like that, the pool is the example, not that that's the only thing that people do in their yards, but it's a larger thing that people do,
So let me ask you this question. So I have 5-acre lot, right, and I'm putting in a house, and I want a 2-acre lawn. Am I allowed to do that?
You'd have to get a permit.
And you can get a permit for a 2-acre
Or
lawn
no.
if you're not in the APOD.
You would get a permit, and then so then you get into standards for issuing a permit. So that's 69.11, and that's like, so, okay, fine, I submitted my permit. What is the reviewing entity looking for? That's what the standards are. So they're supposed to then include, these are the things we're looking at. Page 8. preservation of native habitat, vegetation, and topography for land development activities is required to the furthest extent practicable. Where I'm sorry?
It's page 6, yeah,
Am I on the wrong thing? Standards for issuing permit? This is what was given to me.
No, you have the right page.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Page 6.
69.11, I might have a different, I feel like I have a different copy. Oh, this is the one, it's stamped copy. I have two different versions. Yes, page 6, these are the standards. So in, the first and foremost is the intent. We're trying to preserve native habitat, vegetation, and topography. You know, so where you already have a lawn and you already have, you know, we would say, well, what about that? Like you're clearing a whole forest out for a lawn, you know, that's probably not something that is approvable, right? 2-acre lawn for just the sake of having more fertilizer, more toxic chemicals, you know, I don't know. The second thing is tree significance. In that area of 2 acres on this 5-acre area that you want to now create a lawn, we would look at what is there. Go do an inspection. Well, it's just like, you know, successional, like, you know, black olive, you know, it's not anything that's. Scrubble, you know, it's not an ecosystem of, you know, different forest types that make sense. So we're looking at the tree significance. Third, habitat assemblages, meaning the same way we look at anything else. We go, you're butting up to open space right here. So you're gonna have open space, lawn, and then woods, you know, like we're trying to create assemblages. So that's another criteria. The other thing is like, are you trying to like slowly like lift up your grade over time? That's another like thing that we're looking for. That's really, those are the parameters. If there's more, we're happy to add them. If these are not the ones we should be looking at. So we're trying to say, when you come in and we look at whether or not a lawn, it's appropriate to clear out a forest to create a lawn, these are the standards. If they're not what you think they should be, we're happy to add more or take away.
Is this one permit per property? I mean, so you could come back every couple of years and ask for another 500, another 1,000?
Yeah, but we might, you know, be like you know, that's where
See
you
in the
start
fire.
saying if
But
you're chipping away at a forest
But
year
if
by
I'm,
year.
if I'm applying for a permit and I think I might want to do more later, I'm gonna clear everything today under that first permit and get it done. I'm not gonna
But
progressively
not-
pay for permits to clear more and more of my property.
It
I
just
mean,
seems
I-
like such an easy way too to avoid the rules, to just say, you know,
I'm only clear, yeah.
I'm gonna clear,
Clear a little, clear a little, clear a little.
yeah,
like-
and by the time you're finished, the whole yard is
You'd
gone.
have to institute percentages,
But it-
and then there's something later that says
Is
that
there
if you're
something that
trying to
prohibits
clear
that?
more than
We don't have
50.
recourse is the problem.
Wait, can I just say this? If you're trying to do 50%, in excess of 50% of your lot, it's not just a administrative issuance, you have to go to the planning board.
So now we're putting residential applications before the planning board
We do that now.
for clearing,
Or
For
APOD.
Yes.
but we're adding all
So
of.
this is an administrative approval for up to 50% of the lot?
Well, it's anything, yeah,
Yeah.
until you get it to 50% of the lot area. If you're asking to come in, like your example, I have a 5-acre lot and I wanna clear, let's say 2.5 acres, cause that's half of the lot, we would say we can't approve it, you have to go on the planning board agenda. If that's not, because, you know, that's what we think. That's not maybe what you think, so that's why we're here.
I just think people have property rights too, and it's a
Well,
balance.
you have
and
property
it's-
rights, so how do you figure this out? We start with a permit, what do you need the permit for? Pick a number.
One of the aspects of this that I think is, you know, really important that we talk about in terms of exemptions is you mentioned earlier about, you know, having to, you know, clear and you mentioned the use of pesticides and stuff like that. Got me thinking about perhaps one area in which we should add for exemptions is farming, whereas we do that, oh, it's already in there?
It's in,
Okay,
yeah, ag is in
okay,
there.
so awesome. I just wanted to make sure that that was in there.
But if, you know, think about it. Oddly enough, when it's like off season, we make ag like seed to hold the soil in place and things like that. You're supposed to throw, whether it's clover or whatever it is, because we want to protect the land and the topography and not have, you know, as much snowdrift and erosion because there's nothing holding the soil in place when there's no crop on it and stuff. But if you're not in the A-pod, you can right now, you can just clear the property.
Yeah, which is.
Not put
which
down
is
any
the-
cover crop or
which is
anything
a
like that
concern.
on top of it, and it does what it does.
To even set this aside for a moment, the cases that we see on this, from my perspective, from Ryan's staff's perspective, is a property will be clear cut, and the next thing we get is like a call from the highway division saying a drain is completely full and there's water going into people's basements. And then we need to backtrack and figure out, what happened here, who cleared what, so there are collateral consequences related to clearing, and when we get that person in court, because maybe the only thing they didn't do, it's not just they cleared and built a deck, or cleared and put a pool in. We don't have a charge that squarely fits the behavior for this instance. So we'll have 10 other charges for no building permit, no CFO, no whatever, but we don't have anything that fits this the right way. So that's part of the challenge here. We're in a work session. This is a discussion. Any standard set in here that the board doesn't like can be changed, manipulated, so on and so forth. But right now, we don't have something that hits this on the head. We're standing there in court going, well, he has building permits now, and we don't have a way to measure this, a way to evaluate this. That's the main concern. And I've never had a case, because we do this in wetlands, we do this in APOD, we do this in lots of other areas. I've never had a swing set. I've never had a pool. I've never had any of these instances, because realistically, our enforcement mechanisms here are not jump right to court. Ryan's staff is going out with NOVs first and saying, take this corrective action. Right. Building department staff's going out with an NOV first, saying, take this corrective action. So you have a funnel of people that are inadvertently doing something. They cut down one too many tree. They did this trying to improve their property. You have people that are a little more, deliberate. Hey, I cleared this corner of my property. And then you have people that are, I don't care what the town says. And they're whacking their whole property.
And really, you're not talking about homeowners here at this point, right? You're talking about.
Maybe.
We've dealt with them, for sure. New people come here. We know that there's been an influx of folks coming from the city, and it's mind-boggling to many people. Why do you come here from the city and clear cut? Because what brought you here was the nature, right?
Because they're afraid of
This is why
ticks.
you're here. So they clear cut. They don't want the trees around.
Telling you
I
that's
don't
why.
like the leaves.
Yeah.
I don't want the ticks. I want open lawn. Whatever their rationale is, if they, that it's just a culture shock to think that you can just, come in and blaze through a lot. And those are new homeowners. And they're not just the mom and pops. They're savvy people from elsewhere who want nothing but lawn.
So here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing, based on Councilwoman McNamara's comments, I'm willing to change the 500 square foot regulation to 800 square feet, just to try to make it less onerous if those circumstances arise. I think the whole goal here is to put a process in place that changes the avenue in which contractors and developers will pursue to build large scale buildings and so on and so forth. So I think this particular process is fair. Personally, I think it's good for the environment. Our constituents have been asking us for something like this for many years. And I think this is a good start. And I think also from the planning board's perspective, Seth and Janice, you've commented a lot how this would likely straighten things out in terms of, people coming to the planning board and asking for, or the planning board having to require various revegetation plans. This would actually smooth some of that over a bit.
Right, because it's sort of, the easier to ask for forgiveness than permission type of mindset. That's not true. And it is going to be harder to ask for forgiveness and easier to ask for permission. So we need to turn that around really quickly, because that notion is wrong and not in the best public interest. So people need to see that it's easier to come in and show us what you're trying to do and let us help you and help you do it than do whatever you're going to do and think we're just going to bless it later, because it's going to be, you're going to court, we're not putting you on any agenda, and time is money and construction stops, and we're not doing that. But we'd rather you come in the right way, and then we can help facilitate.
I want to just toss one other point out too. If you're going to clear more than an acre, you need approval right now anyway.
That's
Just
a
to kind of
SWIP,
keep in mind,
yeah.
that requires SWIP. Once you hit the acre threshold, you need SWIP approval, which then goes
Not the
down
property
through.
size, but clearing of a full
Clearing,
acre.
clearing of an acre or greater requires SWIP approval, right now. So just if we start to talk about like more clearing on a property or a larger, portion, before you even get to the 50% of a property potentially, you're gonna have to come in anyway because it's gonna trigger SWIP. So,
So one more question I have. So I can right now, with the way this is written, clear 1,000 square feet for a home garden and I don't need a permit?
Correct.
Okay. See a lot of gardens going in.
Yeah, so why don't we, just take a day or two to, really review this, because, we might, and then we can ask the questions, we can email you with some questions. I appreciate all the work you put into it.
this has
It
been on
seems
and
like we're
off.
pretty darn close now.
Yeah, this has been on and off for, honestly, probably the last 6 years.
Yeah.
So to try and like take it in and absorb it and digest it and the conversation from the work session, like now, after it's taken us 6 years to get to probably the most workable and best version of this that we've come up with, it's understandable to take some time and look at it.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
But as Michael said, it is something the community seems to want, and it's gonna make things easier for the planning board as well to, the planning process.
Yeah, I think that's what I was gonna say, I think referral, obviously, to the planning board for their comments, because this is a subject that for years and years has, and I'll just support your thing that, having them come in and ask for permission and working with them, I know the planning board always, and the planning department was always very good about trying to make sure that process happens smoothly and positively, doing it and then coming in and asking for forgiveness. The planning board's been looking for some kind of a tool, for a long time with that. And this is a tool that kind of stops it before it gets much farther along in the building process, so.
This is a chapter 330 amendment, so it would automatically be referred to the planning board if you do go forward with a public hearing once it's in a form that you feel satisfied.
I mean, I would like to try to get this on for a public hearing, at least in February. I mean, is that something that we realistically can have happen?
I think so. It's just, yesterday, when I got this, I had just back-to-back meetings all day, so I haven't really read every line of it, so I would just like the opportunity to do that. But we can do that in the next week and reach out with questions that we have.
Is it possible that we can schedule it? And
It's usually a month out, so if you do it on the first February
Have
agenda,
enough
the
time
hearing
to-
will be March. It's a 330 amendment, so by the time it gets noticed, it has to be in the paper 10 days.
You have to
so-
refer it to the county
And
also.
we have to refer to the county. So if you do it in February, the hearing will be in March. Just keep in mind, any 330 thing, it's a month out.
Oh, right.
I think everybody seems okay with the commercial aspect of it, correct?
Yep, I am.
We
They
at least
already
know
need
where to
permits
focus
anyway.
here, and,
That it's easy.
Right, that needs planning work,
Yeah.
no matter what.
well, it's just important highlighting, like, we haven't really had a conversation about that portion of this code, and I think that looks like you all support it.
It's important to mention it.
So
Yeah, the concept, yeah. I mean, just want to be able to read it. So, yeah, if we put it on the February meeting to schedule a public hearing for March. But, you haven't sent it to the planning board yet, right? I mean, we just,
you send it to the planning board in a resolution that schedules a public hearing.
Okay.
It all happens very officially.
In case
Because then
there's
it's all
some
willy-nilly,
tweaks.
so it has to be, when it's ready
Yeah.
to be published as a hearing, in that notice, the clerk is authorized to refer it. And that's how our referrals happen. So that way we're not sending them a draft, oh, wait, no, it's
Yeah, yeah.
this one, it
and
happens.
the planning commission too, same thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they either say it's local determination, or they call me over to talk to them about it.
I don't know if we can send it to them any earlier in any form, but I think they're gonna maybe wanna,
They should
mull
be
this
part of
over.
it when you do it in the process.
Okay.
Because outside of the process is,
Their comments don't really count at that.
We
yeah.
might make some changes, and then they'll
Between
have
now and
looked
when we
at something
publish
that's
it,
not
let's
public.
collaborate,
again,
get
yeah.
the way you want it to be in final form, just, and then we can publish it, and once it's noticed, it goes to the planning board, and then that sets off their proper comments.
And you'd-
I know you're saying you want, before it's finalized, but really, it's not the way we do it, so
And
it's,
I can appreciate what you're saying. I guess you would give them a briefing, like,
yeah.
would,
Yeah.
you know. yeah.
We do the referral, so we get on there and put it on our agenda, you know, so it's formal. It's a little more formal the way we do it.
All right, so let's make sure we read it thoroughly, and if we have any questions, we send it to the group and, you know, and then put it out at a public hearing to get some feedback from the community.
Yes.
And
So
one
we can
scenario
even,
we've
you
also
know,
had
do-
issues with is when this board sets protection areas, we've had, in a litigation standpoint, issues where people will add fill to avoid the parameters that are set by the board. So while you're reading, if you consider that, you know, I'm not coming from a perspective of you should do this or you should do that. I'm just highlighting the litigation challenges. So like I said, we haven't had cases, you know, with swing sets, but that doesn't mean we won't. That's, you know, a valid point.
What are you saying about Phil?
So we've had issues where folks will come in and circumvent portions of the zoning law, like the coastal resource protection area, by adding fill on top of the threshold set for GPR use, ground penetrating radar. So they'll add to bypass the standard, essentially. So we were looking to capture that circumstance.
Is that in here?
The topographic shifts
Oh, the
address that.
topographic
Okay.
shifts.
We didn't
You know,
really
they
speak
impact
much about
drainage
that.
too. It's not even just that, it's that you're changing drainage patterns, and people call all the time and complain, like, a new house went in and it's up here and they're still down here, and now I'm getting flooded out, and it's just, it's more about, like, you know, augmenting these drainage patterns that are, you know, being compromised.
So, my recommendation is that the board send some comments to Janice of other, you know, recommendations, but I think we should try to schedule something in February.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
and thank you for keeping this going.
Thanks.
Michael.
Yes.
Very much appreciated, and all of you for your input. You're gonna get a good product.
Thank you for your time.
All right,
Thank
so,
you.
you know, the next topic is the same cast of characters here, is on the proposed vacant properties registry. Well, you are listed on.
Yeah, but I think she was just put on because it was, I told Janice it was the same people, not realizing you were in on the first one, so.
Okay, if you need me.
All right.
Jump
Well,
seat
thank
here.
you, Janice and Seth.
Thanks, Seth.
Over there.
Thanks, Janice.
Here's on this one.
So I guess I'll start on this one. This was something I've been working on with Ryan and Sean. You know, we have areas with vacant buildings throughout the town that become eyesores and issues, and there's really no real, other than making sure the structure is safe, recourse on property owners to make them do the right thing, keep the property maintained, make sure these properties, because most of these vacant properties, you know, don't have mortgages on them, therefore they're not insured. So we want to make sure these properties have insurance on them in case, you know, God forbid, people enter the property and get injured. And we looked at a bunch of different codes from a bunch of different, you know, municipalities in the state of New York, so that we know that, you know, this is pretty much held up to challenges already, and it was just, you know, it's an ongoing increasing rate for you to keep that property. It's basically gonna be costly for you to keep the property vacant, so our hope is that more people will preemptively, you know, have these buildings demolished,
Right,
and therefore
'cause-
they don't have to pay the fee, they don't have to do all of this.
Now, this doesn't cost them anything, and they just turn a blind eye to it.
Yes.
Or they don't even live here.
These are our blighted, you'll often hear them referred to as zombie houses, you'll hear them referred to as, these are these houses within the or properties. I shouldn't even just isolate it, because this could be commercial as
be
much as it's residential.
It could
Yeah.
also include CPF property, because we have a couple of houses like that.
It also, you know, to that point, where we have the blight mitigation fund, where we're getting like $100 per event, it's not really enough, generating enough money to do anything. This is, you know, thousands of dollars potentially that would help us actually do enforcement on some of these properties, enforce cleanups and things of that nature without costing the
Yeah, any
taxpayers.
enforcement actions that we've taken are they're very costly. When the town has to go into an enforcement on a property, you know, we've done just a simple lawn cut and clear on places, and it's, you know, between $800 and $1,000, basically, to just pick up, cans and other things on the lawn and then cut and clear, because.
Then you
for
add
a
it to the tax
contractor-
bill, though, don't
It
you?
gets added to the tax bill, but the taxpayers do have to kind of absorb that in the meantime until it gets paid, which, depending on the property and the owner, could take a while. So it is costly, we did an we did 1.5 enforcement actions, this past summer. And, the cheaper of them came in, which I was surprised at how low it did, come in based on what was on the property, but it was close to $7,000 to do a property cleanup there.
And does the code specifically authorize us to add it to the tax bill?
Yes, so we re-levy, so
Yeah.
you'll see, a lot of these properties are the very same properties we've brought enforcement actions forward for cleanups, board ups, and tax re-levies. So what we're looking to do here, property law favors land use and being productive with your land. This would create a registry, subject to FOIL, and encourage sale of these properties that are sitting there for years, doing nothing, that are attractive nuisance, that kids maybe break into to go exploring, that people are squatting in sometimes. So these are problem properties that, again, we don't have this, we're asking from an enforcement perspective to add a tool to the toolbox and give us something that we can do, at least a failure to register. On a lot of cases I have in justice court, this is gonna, you might have an absentee landlord who lives in Texas. They have no idea that somebody's been living in their house for the last 2 years. They all of a sudden get a charge. They boarded up their house. They did the right thing. They asked what, we asked them to do. They're at the minimum standard. They want to hold it because it's an investment. They want to give it to their kids. They want to wait for a neighborhood to go a certain way. Whatever their case is, they're not there every day. So they get something like this and it's like, wow, someone's been living in my house. Now I have to register. Now maybe they start getting offers on their house. Somebody foils this list and says, I'll give you $1 million for that property. I'll give you $6 million for that property.
Can you back up a little bit, just to give us the background on what we're able to do right now? So there's property maintenance violations, right, that can, what do you do when you see this situation now? What are you allowed to do?
So,
Thank you, thank
properties like the ones that we're talking
tons of
about,
copies.
vacant, often they appear to be abandoned properties, right? We can issue property maintenance violations on them if they're not cured, which often happens because the people that own the property are clearly not living there. It's a vacant property, and oftentimes they're not even really monitoring it. Then we would have to escalate to tickets. Then it goes into court with Sean.
And often,
They often don't show too.
or sometimes it's a
you know.
corporation. That's like the trend out here is I'll put it in an LLC.
Can you add vacant property too, which is not being taken care of? Because like, say if you, in Riverhead, and you go around the traffic circle and go down Flanders, you have the piece next to McDonald's, then you have the old gas station, then you have the old glass place, then you have the old tire place. And you have like 4 or 5 buildings right in a row as you come down to Flanders to head Hampton Bays, and it doesn't look really good when you first come to town.
That's all covered by,
So
that
the
would,
idea
that would all be
of
covered
this
by
is
this.
to create an inventory of that situation.
And
But
that's why I want
aren't
to make
you-
a point so people know. And also the vacant piece of property next to McDonald's where people live in the woods there, which is a hazard to the neighborhood.
This deals more with vacant structures,
Yeah, so can-
more than
can we
vacant
add-
parcels.
Can we add vacant parcels? That's what I'm asking.
That would cover, I don't know. So the
Who's registering for this?
property owner.
Property owner who owns this structure. Right now, what this looks like, to answer the past question. So usually an NOV escalates to a summons, escalates to court. Either this person will or will not appear in court. And once they're in court, we make them maintain their property at the minimum standard that the code allows for. We can't say it needs to be beautiful. It needs to be code compliant. So we get folks to that standard. This legislation creates an inventory of houses that are vacant. What this does is it
Whether or
alerts-
not they're in any kind of property maintenance violation?
Correct. This is
Any
gonna
vacant,
Any vacant.
alert fire
Structure.
departments, for
Right.
example, that this
Right.
is a vacant structure they're responding to. They now know what this looks like, what
Seasonally, they're-
egress is boarded up.
Yeah, it allows the fire marshals to go in the inventory and do an inspection and mark the outside of the building and give the local fire departments basically a rundown of what the vacant building is like, if there's a door that's boarded up that they can't enter, if there's a fire, if
Similar to
there's
our
hazards.
Similar to our foreclosure registry, this requires a property manager to be assigned to the property. So
What
that
if
we
it's
have
just like
somebody
a-
to get in touch with.
Is
you know,
requiring a property manager?
Somebody local.
Identified, a local responsible party.
Right. Someone we can call and say there's a.
Not necessarily the title of property manager, but it has to have someone that's
So if-
responsible for the
So
property.
if they're not, let me ask you something then, if they're not there,
It just got interesting.
if they live there in the summer, stay at some point, I don't know, September, October, they leave, they have to have a manager of that property.
No,
A contact person, right?
so these are properties, you'll see we focused on boarded up buildings, things with evidence of vacancy.
No utilities.
So they could have somebody go by and pick up the mail and check their thermostats, and if it's the house they're living in, it's not necessarily going to be a vacant structure. These are for structures that are unattended, things that are an eyesore to a community, things that your CAC groups are saying, no one's ever done anything with that house, and the town hasn't.
So
done anything.
it's not gonna affect somebody that, for instance, leaves for the majority of the year.
No, this is not targeting a summer or winter home or anything like that. This is targeting the property where the perception is the town hasn't done anything, when in reality, we've done an enforcement action, we've done a court action, we've done a Supreme Court action. The problem is, with these houses, people will say, well, just go and knock them down. They need to be structurally unsound and dangerous to do that. Otherwise, we'll be buying people's houses at fair market
No,
value.
I'm certainly in favor of ensuring that we're not letting the blight affect the quality of
Another-
life.
Other steps will have been taken before you come and go to this step.
Correct,
Right.
many steps.
So let's go back to the vacant property, which are people living on and having trouble. If the vacant property has violation on it, like a history, then can it be added to that? So you're not just doing all the vacant property
Are you still talking without structures, but it's just a
without
vacant?
structure?
You're talking about like undomiciled individuals living on the property and
Dumping
some sort of a.
garbage, dumping
Uh,
That's not
garbage.
supposed to happen
Yeah,
anyways.
there's all sorts, in my opinion, there's other code violation remedies to cure that, and we do. Sometimes it'll build up a bit before it gets to that point, but we do, once we're aware of it, or, you know, it's brought to our attention, we address those situations.
Can I,
Because
Go ahead,
it's
sorry.
vacant, undeveloped land, you know, it shouldn't have people living on
Yeah,
it.
because there's a few in Hampton Bays, there's a couple in.
They're all over.
Yeah.
They're all over. This
Southampton.
this doesn't address that, and that
Yeah.
goes back to, you know, even just the title being vacant buildings, really. It's not vacant parcels of land.
Okay.
I think we can address the undomiciled situations on vacant parcels of land through other mechanisms,
Okay.
probably.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
Could I
And
ask?
we do routinely do it with parks, with CPF.
Yeah.
Town litter crew gets involved in it. State police get involved in it, depending on the who owns the land, different things. And we'll go in and we'll clear all the stuff out, and we try and provide ample opportunity to
Right.
relocate and
Yeah.
you know,
That'd be fair to the people.
self-help and yes, yeah,
Talking about homeless people.
undomiciled, yes.
Could I ask, in your consideration of evidence of vacancy, when you're looking at this to determine if it's, fits the criteria, it says here, any condition that on its own or combined with other conditions present would lead a reasonable person to believe that the property is vacant, such conditions may include dead vegetation, absence of furnishings or personal items, accumulation of mail, like newspapers. When you're considering, does it have to fit? And you also have other more, I think, extreme conditions, disconnected utilities, accumulation of trash and junk. When you're looking at the criteria, what, are you considering all of them? And it has to satisfy all of the criteria, or just some of them? Because if it's some of them, there are properties that are likely going to fulfill some of these characteristics.
Oh, it says or.
So you're only, they have to satisfy just some of them, not all of them.
Correct.
Well, and there's also a notification process here. So we built in that they're gonna get a notice from the Public Safety Division and have 30 days to respond to that notice and say, it's not a vacant property, it's my vacation house, or I go camping here once a year, or I let my family stay here.
It's, if it's usable,
Yes.
you can see,
Yeah.
you can tell if it's.
I
derelict.
just-
There's a communication level. And then, again, I unfortunately see basically when things go wrong, when you end up in court.
I just think some of the criteria that's listed here should be reconsidered. I think there are some that are really important and good. Disconnected utilities, accumulation of trash, abandoned vehicles, all those things. Broken windows, doors, overgrowth, all of those are, I think, definitely key characteristics of that. But some of these are also just, could happen.
Like 2 or 3 years CPS.
Like
That's
which
why they have a
one?
way out. That's why,
like-
Right,
like
that's why
to-
the communication process.
Like dead vegetation, the absence of furnishings.
right, but by the
personal
time
items.
they get to this, so it's that, those are gonna be just some of
I know
the
people who
observations.
don't, so people who have mailboxes that are like down the road from where they live, like that's very popular in Noyak. I mean, some people don't check their mail every day and sometimes
No,
their
we know
their
that.
mail.
But so here's the whole
We know
thing,
that.
to that,
It's
to that.
one piece of it. We're
I just
not gonna
wanna,
make them
I know,
go
I
on.
just
But
don't
to-
want, I don't want to create like a segment of vigilantes who say they're not getting their mail or,
No,
you
but
know.
Michael, to that point though, if you have any of these criteria and you get a letter from public safety saying, hey, it appears that your house is unoccupied, as a homeowner, I would want to rectify that so people didn't vandalize my home because they think nobody's living there. Like if there's too much mail or there's too much trash, or, you know what I mean? Like you're basically giving the heads up like, hey, somebody in your neighborhood said your house looks unoccupied. You
from a
might want to do
practical
something like
standpoint,
leave a light on or.
So, this town,
I
other
just,
towns.
I just don't want to set an example that, if somebody hasn't picked up their flyers, you could submit a complaint that vacant property, they gotta rectify that. We're creating maybe a problem that may not exist. I agree, we need to be certainly taking care of the vacant properties that are causing harm to the community and are affecting quality of life. I just don't think some of these actually fulfill that category of
they're part of
impacting
the whole.
quality of life.
They're not the ones that, some of these things are just part of the cumulative picture that when we're describing for the purposes of if we have to write a violation for failure to register or something like that, we're gonna wanna describe that property and what we found. If it's broken windows,
Does
if
that-
it's the flyers, if it's all of this other stuff, it's part of the picture.
I get that, but does that raise any concern for council though? I mean, in terms of what is the trigger for enforcement? And some of these categories, wouldn't you say some of these may present some sort of overreach in terms of consideration? Especially in terms of property rights.
It only triggers a letter.
These conditions.
The evidence of vacant, I mean, obviously, our main concern is the maintenance of a building, right? If it's unsafe, that's our first consideration. And if it's truly unsafe, if it's structurally unsafe, then we have the ability, we've gone before, right? We have the public hearing, and we have, in order to either board it up or in extreme circumstances, tear it down. This is something a little bit less than that, right? This is where we just want to be aware of the fact that these buildings, while structurally safe, they're vacant.
Yes, we don't want a volunteer fireman finding this out at 2 a.m. that all the egress is boarded up while they're in the structure. We want our first responders to have a map of these are all the vacant properties in the town. These are the egresses that are blocked on them. These are the problems they present to a first response that's needed, emergency response, whether it be fire, ambulance, police, whatever. So we need an inventory of these problematic structures. And we need the tools to make them register. The problem we find out often in code enforcement prosecution is people are comfortable just having it boarded up and sitting and doing nothing. And if they have cheap taxes, they look at it as an investment. And they may live in a different country, in a different state, wherever. It doesn't affect them that this looks horrible in the middle of a neighborhood.
Well, and some of these are not even residential dwellings, right? We have that, if you're driving along 24, there's any number of them, we see them every day. And it's some of these small little
And it's
commercial
costing them
buildings.
nothing to have them sit there like that and be an eyesore and a detriment to the community.
Right,
All
right.
right, so I have two questions. How are you going to create this list of people to send letters to? Are you driving down every street looking for these homes? are we relying on people reporting them to us? How?
We get a lot of reports. I think we've already, we already have, so we have a list of houses. That's the other part of this too, is the cost of the taxpayers from our side of it, where we have dilapidated homes. We have a dilapidation list that the fire marshal's office has to go and routinely check these properties to make sure that there aren't vagrants inside of them. That's time out of their schedule that they have to go and check on these things. Code enforcement checks on them.
So you'll start with the list you already
So we have
have.
lists already running of the dilaps that I would say we would start with that list, and that would be the first group of people that we would conduct outreach to on these properties. From there, neighbors in different portions of the town and different communities, they're the best eyes and ears to know whether a house is vacant. And they bring it to our attention. If the house is vacant, they'll know it's vacant in all likelihood. But then it's a question of is it upkept? Is it vacant just seasonally? Most of them know, they come out, during this time and that time and the other time, versus it's just there. It's just existing. Nobody's keeping an eye on it. Nobody's maintaining it. And they communicate that very well to us on a routine basis.
I believe it. So what happens when you send the notice out and you don't hear anything back? I don't see anything
So
like.
that would be a code violation at that. So if we send the notice out, and depending on the address that it's going to, if some of these people, property owners, have the property, the address for mailing that's on their property record card is the property in question. And they're not maintaining it, and they're not there, and they're just so.
And they'll have a lien on
it's
their-
further evidence that it's vacant.
Although the
first of all,
tax
but it
bill
would be,
must go to their primary residence.
or they just pay the taxes
Well, it'll show
because they know they have
increase, though.
taxes, and they're not getting the tax bill out of the mailbox.
So this is how our Public Safety Commission is designed to work with alarm billing and police billing for alarms. So oftentimes people won't notice that they had police at their house until their tax bill has $200 extra on it.
Yeah.
And then they investigate and say, why did I get this extra charge? So we're modeling a method, again, that already is working for the town, that's already successful.
So do you want to put in here that the notice would go to the address on the tax bill, not the property address? Or both?
It should be the same.
It
Those
should be,
addresses
yeah.
are generated from our tax assessor and receiver's office on the.
Yeah, we would
Don't
just-
a lot of times people that live in Manhattan year-round, they get the tax bill at their New York City address?
Right, and that's gonna be the address that's indicated as the mailing address on the property record card anyway.
Right.
So we'll just follow the same, for notification here, we will follow the same notification procedures that we do for notices of violation.
Corporations
for
and all of that.
Any other communications that we have.
I would, go ahead, Bill.
What is going to happen when you don't hear anything back?
Yeah,
And if you don't hear anything from the person and the house still sits there?
30 days goes by.
Tax bills go on.
So,
Yeah.
What does that mean?
But procedurally, we send out the notice about the vacant property, right? Then we don't get any answer. Then, if they already haven't for some other condition on the property, they're gonna get a notice of violation from us for failure to register. If they still don't get in touch with us after that point, it's gonna potentially escalate to a summons on that,
Okay.
okay? So there's a process there.
What's the summons for? Not responding to the
Failing to
notice?
Register.
Failure to
Oh,
register.
failure to register,
And then
okay.
So by the
There.
time they get to that point, they're at least two, in all likelihood, potentially 3 or 4 notices in with a complete failure to communicate at all.
And then
And-
we'll likely schedule a resolution for a tax levy for those delinquent fees.
And then we would do the cleanup and board up and whatever.
Okay.
Do you have any idea how many buildings would be impacted by this? Couple of hundred, 1,000?
This will help us, so this is kind of it's a nice segue into, so at various times we have grant funding for like zombie rangers and zombie house programs. We currently don't have that. So this is kind of self-help in creating a funding mechanism for that type of focus through our code enforcement division. At various times, some agencies will give those grants and then they dry up and you lose resources when that happens. This is a way of permanently ensuring we have focus on this area, that we have a complete inventory of the houses or commercial businesses that are affected in this way. Most of them are probably named defendants in court already. So this is not putting somebody out. This is someone who's not doing the right thing already. This is adding a burden to them. And frankly, it's a burden that is costing other taxpayers for, again, emergency responses, for, attention of code enforcement officers repeatedly.
So I'll just say, I think this is a great first step. I support this. I think we need to deal with a lot of the zombie homes and zombie situations. I just would like to see a bit of a change in the evidence of vacancy. Not so much focused on like the absence of furnishings. It's stuff like that might seem a little bit. I get it, I understand, but I'd like it to be more focused on like, the presence of abandoned vehicles or boarded up, windows and stuff.
Unsafe structures. kind of
Unsafe
thing,
structures,
yeah.
rather than like things that could actually be categorized on a
Economic.
parcel that is.
What do you think about like a combination of those things, like more than 5 of
Well, it
these
already is a
factors?
combination. What do you mean?
Like a deliberate number.
You wanna
Three or more
just-
of these factors, or
I just think we should get rid of it.
Rephrase, I don't,
rephrase it,
I
that's all.
prefer not, can we try and rephrase the way that the section is presented? And, indicate that these are other signs that may also lead one to investigate further, but they in and of themselves may not be used
I
as
think
prima facie
I
evidence
just think
of vacancy.
I just think the absence
that
of
sounds good.
furnishings and/or personal items consistent with habitation or occupancy is very normative and economic, and I don't know if that's appropriate
It was
to be in
used,
this.
because this model was tested by the city of Saratoga Springs, and it has worked for them. So that's where we took the verbiage.
I'd say more than
There's-
one
'cause there's some-
criteria.
There's some
Yeah.
houses where the people just walk away with this old furniture in them.
Yeah.
Could
So
say
I
more
think-
than one,
I think we can
like Tom
rephrase
said.
it and maybe identify that some of these cannot be considered as prima facie evidence of vacancy and stuff like that. And that will clarify that those factors may help paint the picture of vacancy, but they are not
So
gonna be the
maybe
determining
list
factor
the
of
main
vacancy.
ones and then say in addition,
Yeah.
and list the
that's-
subset of things.
Yeah, because I
That's
think
fine.
the only thing I want to say is I think it's important to just, when we have to tell the story.
Yep.
And we have to paint the picture for court, if it's challenged and Sean has to call in one of the code officers to actually testify, this is gonna be part of their description of what they observed on the property that got them to the door, that then saw that the broken window was there, that the abandoned vehicle on the side of the house was there. You wanna be able to adequately describe the cumulative picture of the property. And some of these things, although in and of themselves, maybe shouldn't count as primary evidence of vacancy,
Right.
they are part of the picture that we wanna paint.
Yeah, well, that's what I think needs to be laid out a little bit more
And that's
specific.
I think we can
a good point,
rephrase.
Michael. So if you could reword
Yeah.
that. Also, with respect to the fines, I mean, it's $250 to register for residential property in the first year, right? Then the next year it goes up to 500, 750. So every year annually you have to re-register your property. But where does it say, or does it, about, if they don't respond and register,
Penalties for offenses?
yeah, is that in here?
It was on,
63-8, yeah.
it was on liens for uncollected,
But there's also penalties too.
that's for court. 263-4F, delinquent registration fees of the lien. That gives you authority to pass the town board resolution to collect that money. So it goes directly on the property tax.
That's what I was asking before.
Right. So that's a mechanism that, I said, again, we do already, that gets people's attention fast. That's usually what they notice first, is I paid more money for something.
Where does it say? It says delinquent registration fees, as a lien. So you go back to the prior section and say, if you don't do it, it's $250.
Right, so-
And then the next year it might be $500.
Procedurally, this looks like Ryan and I coming to you as the board saying, we have this list of properties for this year, their fees should be this. We're asking for a town board resolution to be passed to do a re-levy for these amounts.
What's there's already a delinquent property fee or something.
We have a foreclosure registration right now.
That only applies to banks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not the property owner.
So how does this, tell us, isn't there already a zombie law in the state? And does this, what does that do to support this, or is it consistent with this?
So we have property maintenance standards. This is making a property owner affirmatively register with the town. And the increasing fee structure is to deter people from keeping the property in that state.
Aren't we supposed to be reporting the properties to the banks or the state or something? I'm not clear on what the rules are, but I
Have a
think there's
mechanism
something.
to do that. This is what we're trying to do. is-
Well, if you determine that it's a vacant,
Right, so we want to create a
Sure.
list for the town to have, and then we can refer them to really whomever. You know, banks don't want properties in this condition.
Yeah.
The state doesn't want properties in this condition.
Yeah.
So it's beneficial to everybody, because now you have an inventory of these are the problem structures.
It's hard sometimes to identify who the mortgage holder is on property,
Yeah,
many of the
right.
banks, because
Oh,
they
God,
sell them
yeah.
a lot, right? So, they get packaged and they get sold from one financial entity to another,
Over
to
the course
another,
of a
to
year,
another.
it could be
Yeah.
3 or 4 different lenders attached to
Yeah,
it.
I did have an
as they-
interesting experience recently. There was a foreclosure action going on, private, a bank was foreclosing on a property, and it was in Supreme Court, and the judge's law secretary, the property was in town of Southampton, and the judge's law secretary actually took the step to say, hey, listen, we've got this foreclosure action, there's allegations that the house is in disrepair. Would you come in? And I brought our chief fire marshal, and it was very helpful for the town, and it was helpful for the court to get, so that's not gonna happen all the time, but that was kind of an interesting collaboration between the courts and us and the
I'm
bank.
not aware of any state list that they have.
No.
no, I think we're supposed to report to the states, and they get on the banks that have the mortgages.
That's foreclosure. Yeah, that's not the.
It's a
that's-
zombie thing.
it's
I'll
not
check.
vacant. Yeah, I'm familiar with the fact that the state does have something in terms of like a foreclosure registry. They don't share any of that data with us if they have
Yeah.
it. So I'm not exactly sure what they have on that list, but there is something related to like a foreclosure registry of some sort with the state, and I believe that's supposed to be a communication between the banks and the state. I'm not 100% sure because it's not really shared with us and we're not involved in it, so I'm
don't
not
see that,
100% sure of the process on
To your
that.
point, though, this would create a subject to FOIL document that banks could easily obtain. And say, hey, this one's ours, like, we're the mortgage holder on this, or,
This could provide an opportunity for locations on the registry for community housing to even reach out to and
Right.
say, hey, we can provide some sort of, first-time home buyer incentive for this, whatever it is, to try and get people back into some of these properties, get them revitalized, get them lived in. There are people that are looking for homes, and,
I mean, that's the thing,
great
there's a
to
lot of
connect some of these
people
dots.
that would be able to remediate the home and get a first time, start.
Yeah.
well, oftentimes too, the people that come in that are the owners, when they do come into court and have contact with us, they're largely overwhelmed. They don't think anybody will buy their house in the condition it's in. These folks will happily take offers from people.
Yeah.
They come into court, and this is the least problematic part of their life.
Yeah, we had that experience in the county too, and if they don't pay their taxes, their property taxes, and the county eventually is in the process of taking the properties, a lot of times, my experiences when I was over in the county, that there was a lot of other personal problems with if they're not paying their property taxes, it's probably a sign of other things going on, unfortunately, but. And the county tried to work with people, and, don't lose your house, sell it before you lose it, for no income whatsoever, so.
It's certainly better to get something that you can
Right.
fix up, buy it for less money.
Right.
You should have seen my house when we bought it. It
That's
was
the problem. The longer it sits vacant
termites,
too.
ceilings falling in,
Right. Well, and the longer it sits vacant, the
Yeah.
harder it is for the
Right.
average homeowner for it to it stops being a fixer upper so much anymore and starts being a
whole house
knocker
demo.
downer.
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But the banks aren't gonna get involved in something until somebody's not paying
It
the
could,
mortgage.
the
They're not
house
gonna know
could be
until
important in the
somebody's not
state.
paying the mortgage. That's when they're gonna get interested.
Even then, they don't get involved with us until they get default judgments.
Oh, yeah, no, they're not gonna get involved with us at all, typically.
Well, thank you very much for,
Thank you.
looking into it. Cindy, this is a great idea, and I have a couple that I'll report right away.
Thanks.
No, this is
Thank you.
Thank you.
it's a good way to get this going. Thank you.
Thanks. Charlie outside?
Yes, he is.
I think you got tired of waiting. All right, so the next topic is a presentation for a proposal on the traffic engineering services that we received from Labella. I think they're here, they're in the supervisor's office.
They're here.
Yeah, they're here, they've been here. Tell John. Oh, here they come.
Yeah, put 3 there and leave an extra one over
Yeah.
there.
I'll tell Janice. Thanks, Janice.
Hi. Yes, please come join us.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hi.
Exec session.
I don't know if you've met Tom Houghton, he's our engineer, our
We met
town
you in
engineer.
It's good to see you. I'm Lucy.
I'm Stark.
Why don't you, introduce yourselves to the board and,
Exec session.
Okay.
could you let Charlie know too to come back in?
He's right there. I thought he was outside.
Thank you.
Andrew, can you tell Charlie to come in? I think he's out there.
Oh, thank you, Janice.
Good to see you in person. No, he's not there? Oh, okay.
He's in,
Check my office, maybe check
he's in with Christine.
Charlie? You want to text him?
Let's see, do you have printed copies of the?
Oh, yes, we do.
PowerPoint?
We do.
Pull those out. Okay.
Charlie, you can sit here.
Charlie McCardle, our highway superintendent, and why don't you introduce yourselves to the board, because we haven't all met you.
I know. Well, some of us
have.
are familiar with one another, but I'm Lucy Brueggemann with Labella. I sit in our Brooklyn office, so it's great to make the trip out here and to see everyone in person.
It's the first time I ever heard that.
Make the trip.
It was great to make the trip out. First time I ever heard that.
I flew out here in about 2 hours.
Working so hard on the roads.
Yeah.
Except for,
Try it in several months.
except for the state's working on Hampton Bays right now.
It is January.
And
Remember.
I know, but we're hoping that we, keep working together through the summer because we'd love to, make some trips out in peak season.
yeah, well, you'll have to do that.
I'm Stark Kipp, professional engineer with Labella, based out of the White Plains office. Again, also happy to be out here. I flew out, but I came out a little early, so I could drive around town. It's a very nice town, not trying to pander, but it is a very beautiful area. I'm excited to meet you all.
Well, thank you for making the journey out. It's always nice to do it in person instead of over Zoom.
I know, that's what we were thinking too. We all spend so much time on Teams and Zoom, so it's just good
Yeah.
to
It has its benefits.
be in a room together. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for coming out.
I figured you were going to be up there.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, Michael, didn't you find them at the Association of Towns?
I
Is
did.
that how this
Yeah,
all
Frank-
came
Frank.
about?
I met Frank at Association of Towns. I was actually in one of the seminars with Ryan Murphy, our public safety director, and yeah, right away, there was an interest, and he talked a lot about, different approaches to assessing the traffic conditions in various municipalities, and I know you've done a lot of great work, so.
Yeah, thank you. And, Frank will-
You became involved, right, with the traffic mitigation and safety task force that we
Yes.
put together, right?
Exactly. So,
Tom Houghton and Charlie, and we had separate meetings. You all had meetings together to talk about various points, in the town that,
Yes, yes, we did.
I was in on the first initial meeting and
Okay.
none after that.
You might have been at a wedding.
so it sounds like we might have missed you in the initial conversation, but, yeah, we met, over the summer to chat about some of the, local challenges, that you all have observed, and the conversation has continued through the fall. So, again, we're just excited to be here talking about our proposal, which we'll get to shortly, but there's 5 study areas that I think we can help with most immediately, and I understand that doesn't necessarily cover the full scope of some of the issues that you're seeing in the town and surrounds, but, you know, based on our initial conversations, it seems like a good place to start.
Yeah, and it's not that you came up with these 5. These were suggested to you by our highway superintendent and
Yeah, it was
Michael. It was a collaborative, hey, let's look at these 5. Because I think initially we were talking about maybe having you come in on the comprehensive plan for the town that we're gonna update, but that's, you know, not gonna happen right away. We're putting the money together now. So at least let's pinpoint some certain locations in the meantime. So that's what brought us here, just trying to.
Right.
Sure, and
Summarize.
it would actually be great to hear just maybe quick introductions from the rest of the group that we haven't met in our prior meetings.
Southampton Town Councilwoman Cindy McNamara.
Bill Pell, town council person.
Tom Neely, councilperson. I believe we met in your initial Zoom meeting. I was a traffic safety consultant for the town at that time.
Okay, that's right.
And you're also co-chair with Charlie. for the task
Co-chair with
force.
Charlie of our
Task force, yeah. And that's Jem.
Jim Burke, our
Jim Burke,
town attorney.
Town attorney, how
Didn't
are
mean
you?
to leave you out.
Am I in there?
Yeah. So these 5 problem areas, it was summarized down to, reduced down to 5 study areas that,
Yes, and I think in the presentation that I believe everyone has a copy of, we'll also show
Actually,
it up
do you have the
here.
actual one? Or no?
You can take mine, I already looked at it.
And we've also got it up on the screen behind you.
Got it.
If you're using that, but
Good too.
we just have a couple
Mike,
slides.
Tom,
just
did you
to-
get a copy?
I didn't run one, so thank you.
Sure.
Not bland, that information wise.
So we've just prepared a, you know, short, I wouldn't even call it a presentation, more just a discussion guide. We thought we'd start by chatting about these 5 study areas and some of the challenges that you've been experiencing, and then
It's that,
Art,
Charlie.
who's our
It's that.
who's our traffic engineer, will take the group through our process, and then we can just finish up by chatting about the timeline. So some of the feedback that the Traffic and Safety Task Force shared in our initial meetings was that congestion is a problem and is likely driven by population growth and tourism. I know there are some locations where road infrastructure is outdated and in some cases unsafe. And it sounds like speeding and roadway safety are also serious concerns. So Stark can speak to this a little better than I can as the traffic engineer, but I think there's a lot of ways to approach or a lot of solutions that can kind of come out of these challenges, but a good starting point is data collection. So that will be the first step in our recommended process. So it's a little tough to see on the screen, but these are the 5, we'll call them study areas, a combination of intersections and corridors throughout the town that, you know, based on feedback from the task force for a good starting point. And I don't know, Maria or Charlie, if anyone else wants to kind of share some context as to how these locations were selected.
How we came up with these?
Yeah.
So these have been talked about, I've been here 4 years in my position. These locations have been talked about probably on a daily. The first location is the back way in the morning for workers to go to get out east. It's a confusing intersection. It causes people to cut through an area right before that to try to beat 4 or 5 cars to get to the next spot. So our thoughts were, if we did have a traffic circle roundabout there, the traffic would continue and not have to stop. It's confusing, like I said. You stop going east and there's 3 people facing you at stop signs. You don't know who goes first. It delays it tremendously. In the afternoon, coming back, you have the same thing in reverse. You have pretty big backup there, so that was the thought on that. I think we looked at it briefly, Michael, and I'm not an engineer, so I wasn't sure how big of a circle we needed. This property right here is owned by the Community Preservation Fund. they don't like to give up their property. And the others are around, one is I think might have been bought by CPF Foster's Farm there, or was that,
I think it's still, I think we did development rights there.
Halsey's?
There was a notice sign out there this morning.
Okay, and then you have these two property owners that their property is very weird, it goes to those points.
Thanks, I can't
So
see.
that was the question. That's why Michael wanted you guys to look at that, to see if it's feasible to get a traffic circle in, or how much it would really cost us to do it. Then this is, again, we talked about, I wasn't sure if we wanted to get into doing stuff on county roads.
Yeah, that
So
was
the
a
second
question.
one is
I have a question
the
about that.
county issue. So I almost would think that we shouldn't waste our energy on that, because even if you came up with the greatest idea, we'd have to sell it to the county and they would
Yeah.
have to fund it.
They would probably want their own study too.
Yeah, and I
Do we
think,
want to talk about each of these intersections, or just let you overview them and then go back? Because I
Let
do
them
have
let them
questions or
overview.
comments about each one.
And didn't we say that it might be helpful when we go to the county to at least have something that we've evaluated?
you might know better, Michael, because you're a girl.
It's not-
It's my understanding that Ann Welker had monies put together for a traffic study for that corner.
There is a traffic study underway there, which, again, I don't know if we want to get into each of these or go through them quickly and then
So
go
maybe it
back.
makes sense to drop
And
them.
then as we moved out to Nyack and, in front of that Cronus Market, I don't know if you guys took a ride
I
out
don't know
there,
why we
but
don't
Yeah, I
have
was there this
that.
morning.
it is the most awkward,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna,
Trying to find this.
they are currently my engineers that designed it, that are affiliated with the highway department, but I wasn't here when they did it, but
Good food, you should
I
stop.
still get confused
I
going
was
through
thinking we
there,
might need to head there for lunch.
right? Then, we dropped down to, this is an interesting one, and this was actually Jay Schneiderman's idea back in the day, to make, Deerfield, head a pond into this giant oval, like almost racetrack, traffic circle.
You know, we call them peanut roundabouts sometimes.
Yeah, because that, at the end of the day, this road backs up and it's a 1-for-1 to the stop
In your
sign.
computer.
Traffic backs all the way back up east, so that's an interesting one. And again, I wasn't in favor of this, not that I don't think we should look at it, but these roads in Lincliff, Argonne, Fanning, and Hampton Bays, they are just roads that people have migrated to get to. We have a pilot cone program at Canoe Place, which helps the traffic get through, but we keep the light green going east in the morning. And people find whatever way, whatever way they can to get to that point, so
Yeah.
they can get east.
It's primarily residential, and we receive a lot of complaints that it's cut through a lot of speeding,
Yeah.
so on and so forth.
We may
And the school
even
is
be
there,
the
right?
cause, we may even be the cause of that, because
Pushing people over there.
we're very successful with the, with the cone program at Canoe Place, that people are
Sorry.
finding any way they can to get to that choke point.
They make more choke points when they do it.
They're actually even going, down Dune Road, coming over the Ponquag Bridge to get to that point. So all of that neighborhood is flooded, and again, we may be the blame for it.
Well, I mean, I will say, like, with traffic calming, that's what you're trying to do with the pilot cone program. Traffic calming is hard to pin on one spot. It has to be a very systemic approach because of what you're seeing, where you may be diverting
Right.
traffic to other means. But they're also pretty straight and flat roads, which
Right. Well, what do they say, we live in the flatlands? That's when you're upstate and you're
it is
from
pretty
Long
level
Island.
out here.
So that's, Tom, that was just my quick overview, and you wanna go back
That was good,
one
yeah.
by one and take a look?
I have some comments about each one, and
Well, are your comments, whether we should do it or not, or what should be done? Because Labella is gonna present to us what their analysis will entail.
it's, yeah, well, it's based on their, so why don't you go through your letter and I can ask my questions
That's
as you go
fine, and we
through
can
that.
always come back to the specific study areas, and happy to take some further direction and feedback as
Thank you,
needed.
Tom.
So, yeah, Start can take us through the process. We'll start with data questions.
Yeah, so I think every solution we come up with needs to be data-driven to give us a background on what we want to do and what we need to do. So the first step in the process of this is data collection, and that's laid out in the proposal that we've put together for each of the 5 locations. It is very based upon traffic volumes as well as other factors like collision history and speeds, which is something I saw some vehicles traveling at speed while I was driving around earlier this morning. We compile that information. One of the unique approaches that we're taking with this, I shouldn't say it's unique, we've used it before when we need to be tactical with how we're collecting data, is intend to collect data using ATRs or automatic traffic recorders, which are, you might see them as like the tubes that are on the ground. We're starting to use radars too, which is nice. But those will go down for about 7 days, from a Saturday through Sunday, to get a full week of data. And those collect data constantly for those 7 days and breaks it out into 15-minute increments. And with that, we'll be able to identify fluctuations in traffic volumes through the week, through each day. And then we can go forward with turning movement counts, which are where we'll count traffic movement at intersections. We'll see how many left turns are happening, how many through movements are happening, how many right
With
turns are
that, do
happening.
you consider the weather, because the weather has a lot to do with it, like if it's rainy, windy, then the traffic is like way down because of the landscapers don't go to work. The painters don't go to work outside.
We'll make note of that. I think, again, with the nice thing with the ATR is it's down for 7 days. So unless we have like a hurricane, hopefully we shouldn't have an issue. We do avoid weather events with ATRs because they're tubes that are on the ground. So like we might, if we were to do this and we knew there was a snowstorm coming, we wouldn't have them out. If we knew there
I'm
was a
just
hurricane
saying,
coming.
with the weather, people don't come out here.
Oh,
Would
yeah.
you make note, is
No.
what he's
We can probably
asking?
cancel the counts.
No, but if we just say during the 7 days,
Yeah.
some are sunny, some are rainy, would you make note in that,
For the weather.
so
Yeah.
that we would know, oh, that's why there was a dip in the.
Yeah, we can certainly, when we get the data back, we're gonna review it and see if there's any fluctuations on a daily basis. Generally, traffic is the same every weekday, and it's gonna be different on a Saturday. Those Saturdays are gonna be similar to each other. But
We're
if we
not-
see it one day, like,
It's not out
It's not-
here.
Thursday, from sitting at the cones, I can tell you right now, Monday's the lightest day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday during the spring, especially, and in the summer, are the worst days because you have every house vendor
Has to get
getting
out.
their house ready for the weekend.
Yeah.
So, again, Monday, Tuesday, and then schools are issues and stuff like that time of year.
Then if it rains Thursday morning, really heavy.
Landscapers don't go out.
Landscapers don't go out. But if it's sunny in the afternoon, you'll see them in the
I
afternoon.
mean, we
come back
can
out.
go over it, but it's totally different than from like a neighborhood in Nassau County where everything is exactly the same. Our stuff is based on, and,
The service industry.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Bill's right, we've watched it, if it's a rainy day and there are no outside workers,
Not coming.
proves my point.
Yeah.
The traffic, is a lot lighter and you can get around, but I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No,
just
that's fine.
some of the things.
But the
you-
question was, though, that we're not doing this data collection until the peak season in the spring, right? I mean, it wouldn't
Well,
make
we didn't
sense
get
to
to
do it
that yet.
now.
well, so the reason we collect 7 days worth of data is so that we can capture any fluctuations that are occurring. We're not focusing in on one day with that. However, that does allow us then be more precise with the turning movement counts, which are more detailed analysis. Those we're gonna know, like, hey, if it, anecdotally, and you guys are the local experts, so you know how your roads are. We see that Thursday on a sunny day is the highest. Okay, let's do the weekday turning movement counts on a sunny Thursday. Let's do that then. But if we see Wednesday is more than Thursday, we'll do that. We'll avoid rainy days. Speaking to the point of seasonal data collection, this is something we run into a lot, especially with towns like this that have a tourism-driven traffic volumes. But you also have schools. So you have to be cognizant through the school year or through the year on when you collect data. You want to have a typical, and I understand not every day is typical, but you might have a typical Thursday, you have a typical Wednesday, stuff like that.
It would be essential that this data is collected either during the spring, early summer, given the seasonal issues that we have.
Yeah.
So what we've done in the past is you collect data during the school year, during a typical week, so no holidays, Schools are in session. It's not like an exam period. We try to avoid like the Regents exams in June. But then what you can do to capture your summer traffic is you can recollect data in the summertime. Now, you don't need to go through the expense of doing the turning movement counts again. Those are an expensive practice. What you can do is you can put the tubes back down, the ATRs back down, collect data for 7 days in July, or what you feel is the peak season. I would say July.
July, definitely.
August, probably for the beach. And you see how the traffic changes between the two 7-day periods.
So you would do 2 7-day periods?
If you guys wanted us to. Right now, we're only scoped to do 1 7-day period and 1 round of turning movement counts.
And I think the other, what Stark and I were speaking about earlier, is even when the data is collected, say in the spring, which isn't peak season, the process for analyzing that data allows you to extrapolate it to other times of year. So
yeah, so the New York State DOT has what are called seasonal adjustment factors.
And they look out here because you have July and Thursday night, it's gonna, summer people start coming out Thursday night, Thursday afternoon, and
So those seasonal adjustment factors are based on different factors of roadways, whether they're commuter, recreational, and they also broken out by months. But I agree, again, if that is a major concern, I understand that, and we can do, what we're essentially doing is coming up with our own local seasonal adjustment factor by collecting the data again, if that's the plan, in July or August.
If we're looking mostly to capture workers, which is the biggest, it's not really the summer, it's the workers that are doing this commute. All these intersections are workers. And I would think, right, the last week of May, right before Memorial Day weekend, would be the best week to do this.
My opinion, I agree with that. It's gotta be a school week, but also when the workers are coming out to get houses ready.
So right before
That's the
Memorial.
full-blown thing. We talked about it before. The actual summer people or the seasonal people, they know they're gonna be stuck in traffic because they've been doing that for the whole time they own it. It's this daily routine that we're trying to get so people can survive. I don't think you could ever make adjustments for the summer crowd in particular, but I really think we should focus on the everyday schools, workers, and full-time people.
So I agree with that, because I think one of the things you need to be conscious of when you're doing traffic improvements is, as engineers, we build in factors of safety to things that we design. But you don't want to have that factor of safety be too high. So the example I always like to show people is parking. If you have a shopping mall and you need to design the parking for it, you're not going to, as much as you want to, you're not going to design it for Christmas. Otherwise, you're going to pave the entire property. You're going to pave it. You're going to have parking for your typical months of the year, and that's what you'll do. So you have to, while you want to capture that those times maybe when it's the most congested, you probably don't want to design for that, because then you would have widened roadways. Frankly, if you were to accommodate that volume, the capacity you would need would probably ruin the beautiful nature of the roadway that you have here.
The character of the community.
The character of the community. So, based on what I'm hearing, it does sound like it's that later spring, May time, schools are in session, but it's not the Thursday or Friday morning when people are driving up to stay for the weekend.
Those people they know what the
they know
traffic
what
patterns are. They'll come late at night, or they'll
Right.
come, in the middle of the day. They know when to avoid
It
those
used to be
times.
Friday night, you couldn't get around in the summer. Friday night, I tell people to come out because it's dead.
And that's Thursday
Everyone's
night.
coming Thursday, or they're coming,
People can work from home on
Yeah.
Friday and then.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's helpful. I mean, I think understanding the worker nature of it too is helpful.
I would say 2 weeks before.
There is a 24/7 DOT counter at the Peconic Bridge, the Peconic Overpass, immediately west of County Road 39. I pulled that data because it's capturing not the traffic on Montauk Highway coming in and not these local roads, but it is capturing 99% of the traffic coming in and out from Sunrise Highway and County Road 39 into the eastern portion of the town. as part of the traffic task force report, I pulled that data. So we have the 12-month, seasonal averages by month, and then looked a little more closely, I believe, at April and May and July and August breakouts, by hour traffic volumes, which share that data with you. I think that'll help, you
That
guys.
could save us from having to recount data then. We could come up with the factors using that.
I mean, it is, it's right where Sunrise Highway and County Road 39, kind of just before you get to 39. So it's not on the local roads, but I think it does give you a good indication of seasonality and peak times, because they got to come in that way to go to these roads. And that may be of assistance. I think, my thought on the timing would be late April, early May.
Mainly east of the canal, though, right?
At these local locations
Yeah.
would be, yes, yeah, this is, it. Right, it won't capture Lincliffe or,
Right. Hampton Bays.
Hampton Bays, but it'll capture the locations east of the canal.
Right.
Can share that with you, just.
And I would also encourage you, we did provide some of the references in the task force final report to the county's ongoing study of County Road 39. But there is some data that's referenced there. You may want to try to, and I'm happy to, make the connection to convene with the county Department of Public Works, just to underscore their analysis of the traffic patterns of really the majority of where that traffic is headed, which the analysis is actually staggering in the fact that most of the traffic is really headed to East Hampton, or the eastern
half
parts
the
of eastern parts of the town. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other areas of the town that are impacted because of that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we had spoken about briefly in one of our earlier meetings, but if we can play a support role in liaising with the county, or just make sure that we're kind of reviewing and incorporating any county data, or, that's something that we can certainly include in the process and the existing data that you mentioned.
Yeah.
That just helps inform this more holistic snapshot of what we're dealing with at different times of year.
Yeah, data collection is not just the data that we're collecting in the field, it's also reviewing the data that's been published by the state or by the county, so that is part of that. I mean, on top of the traffic volume data that we'll be collecting, we would also review collision data that we would foil from the state, and then if the local police department has that data available, we'd also review that. So that's really part of our data collection effort, and then once we've taken that, we're analyzing that data. The traffic volume data would be used to evaluate intersection improvements, so operations analysis using modeling software like Synchro. This here is a study we did in Nassau County in the village of Garden City. For the village, they wanted to do a feasibility study of implementing a roundabout at kind of a gateway intersection to the village. Currently, it's a 3-leg intersection with stop control on one of the approaches. And they wanted to look at, could they do a roundabout here? One of the alternatives was signalization. The thing that's unique there is that if they went with the signal, they would have to basically give the intersection to the county, because all the signals in Nassau County are controlled by Nassau County. If they went with the roundabout, it could be under their jurisdiction. So in this scenario, we take that data, we evaluate how it's operating currently, we evaluate the alternative, which in this case was a signal, and then the preferred alternative, which was a single-lane roundabout. All of this is prefaced by some preliminary analyses that we do using guidance from the DOT in its highway design manual. Once we have an alternative kind of put together, we'll go into more detail with the concept development. In this case, this was the concept that we went with. Again, a single-lane roundabout. This is partnered with a technical memorandum that summarizes the findings. You could almost see this as being one of the intersections that you're looking at. There would be 5 of these that go with the locations that you have.
And that's put in place now? That's there? That's in existence?
No, they were working through the process. We had a meeting, the last time I met with the village was late last year. The issue that comes up with roundabouts is cost. So we started to investigate grant funding that they could utilize.
Really checked out.
The
And
funding.
just
You're
Yeah.
telling me
Sorry to
Garden
interrupt you,
City
but-
didn't have the money for that?
But
That's the golf course right there.
That is the golf course, yeah, it's Cherry Valley Golf Course.
That's Cherry, which course is that? That's Cherry Valley.
That's Cherry Valley, and the swim club is just to the north.
The pool?
Also-
the- The Garden City pool?
Say no more.
Our town engineer, Tom, he can help, he might have some input on this and maybe some other areas. He's been studying it for a while.
When money does come to effect.
Oh, yeah.
Stuart mentioned grant funding, so that is another area that's not currently included in this scope of work, but it is a service that we provide. So we've got planners who specialize in grant seeking, because we recognize that, you know, it's one thing to receive a concept that you'd love to implement, and then the next and maybe biggest challenge is finding a way to do that. So
That's something we do with Garden City right now. We have this with several municipalities. It's a grant on-call service where it's kind of an allowance that's provided, and it allows us to investigate and find grants that could serve that municipality once they've identified some projects that they want to do. And actually, we just through that, Garden City won the Clean Communities. I can't remember the Climate Smart Communities grant. It was $40,000. They wanted to work on improving the street light infrastructure in part of their fleet. It's kind of small potatoes in the grand scheme of things, but it's something.
yeah, but it's significant and moves some of these concepts closer to.
And there's ones that they have to be used for specific things. So
Yeah.
like TAP grants are great for pedestrian improvements. CMAQ is great for improvements like roundabouts, though we'd have to work in pair with the county for that.
Was
grant.
there
So-
any need to do any land takes there at all?
No, there was actually, so the green, all of the green, it fell within the public right of way for
Okay.
this one. It was, it actually fit very well, and even the sidewalk along the east side utilized the existing sidewalk. And this was what did it end up being 110 diameter roundabout, so just a little bit above the typical urban roundabout of 100 feet for diameter. And it worked well.
It's only one lane?
It's only one lane. Double lane roundabouts are.
Difficult. For
I
people,
don't like to say they're
well,
difficult, but they are.
people are hesitant. Some
Go to,
people
go to
are hesitant.
Riverside on your way back.
Yeah, they work. I mean, I've seen them, but single lane roundabouts I think are. I think I'm a huge proponent of them. I understand that they're costly, but they have a ton of benefits beyond just traffic operations as far as placemaking,
The single lane
traffic
is a-
calming.
Right. Ongoing maintenance, I mean, there are a lot of.
There's a lot of things. I
and-
mean, I think of being out here. I grew up in a town that experienced a lot of hurricanes, and so like power goes out, and then all the traffic lights shut down. The roundabout, it works all the time. So.
And they, just while you're looking at this, I think maybe for everybody, in all 5 of the concepts, what we would get is the concept sketch like this and the technical data that you've collected. Cost estimates and some of the other elements would be in what I would call a phase 2. So I kind of look at this as like a phase 1
Yeah.
approach, and then a phase 2 would be to, if we decide to, go further, would be to get into the detail, because we get no detailed engineering sketches or anything like that. Just kind of want everybody to be aware of, this is what we'll get, and if there were a phase 2, we would get these other parts.
Although you say here in the exclusions, concept sketch is not included.
I think that's for one of the concepts, or for one of the tasks.
I mean, the only, like here, Charlie, the only one
Oh,
that wouldn't
each one has
include-
its own,
Yeah.
okay.
And to say that there'll be, like, we're not just like slapping down a concept on an aerial. We will take into account, based on GIS data, it's not gonna be surveyed property lines, but we're gonna pull in property lines to know like, hey, this will actually fit, or hey, there's the potential to be encroaching on this property. to give you a good idea on what you have to
That,
do.
that was my next question, will be right-of-way and
Yeah, I mean,
issues like that.
You mentioned that one, at the very first one, upper Seven Ponds and lower Seven Ponds. I saw that and like, this is a roundabout. But the mention about the property on the northwest corner, that's been being a little, I guess, apprehensive.
They're possessive of their property.
But
You
those
buy
are the things,
$1 million, they spend millions of dollars on it, but.
Well, I think we would have to alienate it.
And-
I think
Can't
part of
just give it
the
back.
analysis process is, looking at what the data shows, the local context, and, while we might enter this process anticipating that the outcome will be a roundabout sketch, it could be that another alternative becomes a better option for one reason or another.
It doesn't have to be a roundabout.
Right, we're not
Right.
concluding
Right.
in
It
advance.
could be a roundabout, that might be the preference or the goal, but we prefer to wait for the data to dictate what
great.
concept you end up with. And so, we do see this as kind of a phase one. Let's look at the data and see what the data is telling us. And then, of course, we'd, be in a position then to continue our work together to move you closer to.
yeah, I think of the corridor segments, to go back to Garden, I've just been working with Garden City now for maybe 4 years, and something that we did with them when I was at my past firm, but I was on that project, was kind of developing traffic calming tools, like a toolbox that they could then implement along roadways, and that's what stood out to me about Argonne and Glencliff, was that these aren't intersection improvements, these are things, what can you do to these roadways? And then you can go forward with a systematic approach for traffic calming and be like, all right, we could do this on every other street, we could do this on these several streets in that neighborhood.
Kind of becomes a template for.
Exactly.
for-
I mean, that's something that cities have been taking on, where it's a whole process. You come up with this toolbox, and then you can have a petition system for citizens, and then it's a whole.
Well, that's why I like this as a first step for us to see where we go from here. And I think it would be beneficial just to demonstrate, what can be available to us to improve these roadways, and in addition to improve quality of life for residents, and also make improvements for the business community, which also, is really relying on some solutions to be implemented for some of these major roadways.
Yeah.
To make sure our economy is viable for the future.
Totally, and this conversation is kind of reminding me of something that we spoke about a couple months ago, and that is, I know sometimes it sounds like you're under pressure from the community to show more progress on improving the streets and these intersections. So again, in a phase 2, we can work with you to talk about a platform where you can, communicate with members of the community about the work that's being done. I'm blanking on the name of this platform, but it's like a data visualization tool. So that's a future project, but I know a big part of.
That would be really great.
But we're going to make you come out in person for that.
Like I said, we're looking for the invitation to come back.
Our public meetings, we're going to.
Is there any way to block GPS signal?
This is the question of can you
Like the cone of
affect
silence
ways?
over
Yeah.
the town of Southampton so people can't use their GPS?
I bet people would pay a lot of money to
Well, there was a Verizon outage yesterday.
Yes.
Loved
take it up
it.
with Verizon.
Because no matter what we do,
Very
as
quiet.
we save, to move traffic, we talk about it all the time, you get a second savings by going somewhere else, they go.
Mhm.
And that usually means down a side street.
I really think we need that sign, like on 27, that says Southampton via 27, 15 minutes, Southampton
And
via
we'll just lie.
Montauk Highway, 19 minutes, and everybody will stay on
I mean,
Sunrise
going to
Highway.
Throgs Neck Bridge, you don't know which way to go.
And that tells you 1
that
minute
sign on-
difference.
on-
Because they don't
on
tell you the
95 is
difference.
Too far
But
in to
no,
go
and even if it
towards
tells me the
ours.
Whitestone is 1 minute faster,
Yeah.
I'm not going to the
I know,
Whitestone.
I know.
But you make that choice, your GPS wants you to go that way, but when you see the sign that says it's gonna save you a minute, you go, I'm staying this way.
One of the things I thought about, when the US Open puts up their footbridge, why don't we see if we can buy that or keep it? And that would be a perfect bridge to put a sign on. A sign that we could use for a lot of things. You could have, reports on the beach, like, that would be our sign. you know, we have nowhere for if a child's missing or any of that stuff, right?
We tried that in 2018,
And?
last time they were here. Nope, they actually take that to other locations.
I would like them to keep the train platform.
Right?
Because then nobody, I don't need to get off topic here, but nobody would press the button to walk across 39
Right,
either and
right.
hold up traffic.
Yeah.
It's true.
So don't approve that permit.
Or prove it based on it staying in its
Trade,
location.
trade for the pedestrian bridge, huh?
But anyway, that would be a good spot to put a sign up, but
You're right.
Which, actually, that's a,
No, that's fine.
the US Open is coming in June, so
Oh,
we
yes.
want to avoid traffic counts
Well,
at
yeah,
that
I was
time.
just in my mind, I was just
Yeah.
thinking also about the
Good we brought that up.
Yeah.
World Cup, but that's not until July, I think.
So there was some conversation about, you know, maybe there is no need to do the Hampton Bays
North
North
Road.
Road one.
Yeah.
Because before, when we spoke with you, we didn't know that the
status
county
of the
would
study.
agree to do their own study.
I have contacted Legislator Welker's office for an update on that, just a couple of days ago when this came onto our agenda. So she is trying to get us an update on that, but that's a study they've been working on for a while, so they've got to be
And this
hopefully
is-
pretty close to
I
done.
know, and I haven't seen many updates come up on the website for the project, so, are you getting?
They've been studying it for like 2 years, so
This is Montauk and
Longer.
North.
it's the one identified, County Road 80
Yes.
at North Road.
It's interesting that you say they've been studying it, because when they came here for our task force meetings, the engineer at the time, Bill Hillman, said, oh, no, it's not gonna.
Oh, okay.
I think,
Work,
I
it
think
made
it,
it seem like they
I
weren't
think it
looking
came
at
off
it.
the table for a period.
How long's Ann been in, 2 years?
Yeah, but it was also under I think this was even when
It started with
Bridget.
Bridget.
Right.
But Bill Hillman
Maybe
was
they
not
had,
studying
maybe
it.
they had pulled it back and didn't bother to tell us, but we'll find out from Legislator Welker.
Change what?
Intersection.
When Canoe Place Inn, the new development there went in,
Made them change it.
5 or 6 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
And a lot of us advocated for the old design, even though it wasn't, up to modern design standards. So as you can tell by looking at it, they've clearly
Have a little interchange.
designed it really for a traffic signal, I think.
Yeah.
That's how they've, very traditional in that sense. But my thought on that was, and we'll wait to see what Legislator Welker says, Canoe Place Road intersection on Montauk Highway, which, Charlie has said, and we put out, traffic cones, 175 days a year, something like that, which tells me that intersection's failed.
Yeah, if
We
you need the
should,
cones out there.
if we have to
would
do
be-
that every single day, my thought would be if everybody's open to it, is maybe ask these folks to look at that intersection. Something to think about.
Which intersection, Tom?
New Place Road, where the cones and barrels go up in Hampton, half a mile, quarter of a mile west of the North Road intersection.
No, we stopped for the winter season, but I think Tom's onto something, but I don't think it's for this group, to be honest, because I don't see I don't see investing the money to get something approved that we have no control over instituting it. So I personally think if we're gonna go this route, we stick to what
We have control over.
we control with the town, and it'd be, good stepping stone.
And I, in some ways, agree with you on that, Charlie, but we have done it before, mixed success with working with the county, but we have in the past, on occasion, kind of done initial studies to get them moving.
Yeah.
But again, that's something else we could, and it would have to be done, and I see you've got the technology to do it, like, again, jumping to a roundabout. You've got the technology to do those kind of analyses, but again, maybe that's something we want to talk about, whether it benefits us or not.
Could, at some point, this is the starting point, so could we eventually, what does the board think too? If we see progress in your analysis and what you're proposing, and we're in agreement with what the data shows, could we eventually move further and expand down the road, down the line, different study areas? I think that was the goal,
Sure.
right, Maria? We want to try to.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think Maria and I have spoken a little bit about eventually there will be a comprehensive plan update, and traffic and transportation will be a
Include it.
significant component of that. So the continued work and maybe repeating the process that we're already starting at these 5 locations. That could be part of the comp plan update, or it could be a separate scope. There's a couple different ways that we could continue that support, and then move into, you know, what you described as a phase 2
Right.
with cost estimates and,
That's what I was gonna say, is that as far as with Labella, I mean, the thing you're getting is, you're getting us right now,
What if we
but then
take
down the
that one out
road,
as
you know, we have a highway design group, we have a grant writing group, we have planners, we have the whole gambit that you need to evaluate, design, and implement these projects. I think that's something that I'm proud of, at least with Labella, is that you don't have to come to us and then shop for somebody else.
The last one that I promise I will comment on is Cromer's. Because I was here at the town when that relatively new design was put in, about 15 years ago. We, working with LKMA McLean, went through about 8 different design concepts. It was very challenging, and you will find that there are a lot of, I think, encroachment and right-of-way issues. Again,
Okay.
you'll probably find that, but we went through, I think this is the classic, you know, was a camel is a horse made by committee. I think that's kind of what that came out, and some of the issue, what you mentioned here about private property, we explored some of that then, and the owners at that time were not willing to work with the town. So, again, look forward to what you folks are able to come up with.
It'd
Yeah.
be interesting to see if those plans are available, like any past, you know, options that have been evaluated, so we're not just coming
be.
back with the same thing.
They're probably deep in McLean's files or Tom's files or
Oh,
something
you
like
still
that.
have them, Charlie, you think?
Like 8 versions, as I remember, or something like that.
that
in the
could
folder of
be, you know,
failed
an
mistakes.
onboarding session
not
or
in the
something where we
A+
get together
file.
to chat about the prior work that
Right.
was done, just so that you can kind of transfer all of your knowledge over to us, so that we're starting the process with, you know, we're all operating from the same,
Doing work that's
starting
already
point.
been investigated.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say, if it was previous analysis, it was likely years ago when the traffic issues have vastly become worse. You know, even from just like 3 years ago. So, you know, it's a different situation right now than what we have, you know, experienced.
Volume has absolutely increased.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
Why?
Well, certainly the pandemic had something to do with it, but you know, I just think you know, Long Island in general has become more. There's a bigger populace now, and
Yeah.
you know, people are looking for places to go. I think there is also, I think, people from the city that have, since the pandemic, have moved out here full time. I can just speak for myself. I know a couple of neighbors who've done that. So.
Growth in East Hampton, growth in, you
Growth in
know, the
East
eastern
Hampton.
half of town. Land use, as I'm sure you know, is a component.
Yeah.
I think we've averaged something like, you know, 1.9% growth over the last, traffic growth over the last 20 years, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I know transit-oriented development was something else that came up in our earlier conversations, and that's the kind of thing that could be explored in a comprehensive plan. So,
Yes.
you know, that kind of takes this scope a step further and starts looking at development patterns, which, you know, these are pretty site-specific studies, but you know, something we do in other towns is look at how the transit and traffic system interacts with population growth. So, you know, it makes sense that a lot of the patterns have changed since the pandemic, you know.
And you all have to also realize the population growth, that a lot has to do with affordable housing, because the people who walk out here can't afford to really live east of the canal.
Yep.
They live west of the canal, and there's only 2 roads over the canal.
Okay.
That is true.
So if we're going to eliminate the Hampton Bays evaluation, does anybody want to suggest one to put in its place, or do we just go with the 4?
Just do
and
the 4.
Ask you to
Are you
just do
sure?
a quick revise on the.
Start with 4, see how they go, and
Right. I mean, I'd like to talk a little more about possibly that Canoe Place intersection, you know, maybe have some conversations about that, to see if the county would be open to us giving them that information or not. But I'd say let's go with 4 while we, get it started.
Yeah.
Tom, do you have anything you want to add?
I'd like to review and digest a little bit more before I comment.
You didn't get the copy of the proposal a while ago?
I did.
Oh,
I
okay.
just, all of this today.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Mhm.
Well, go ahead.
No, I don't have anything to say.
I mean, I appreciate all the work that you did. I think this is a great starting point, again, for the community. I think, we have to take more of an aggressive approach to working on our traffic issues. And I know our highway department has been really working really hard with us, with engineering, so I really, I think this is another tool to add to our tool belt that we're taking this very seriously. And we're trying our best to chip away at as much as we can, and we're getting one step closer to, I think, to a more comprehensive approach here.
Yeah.
Totally. And I mean, you have to start somewhere. And Charlie, it sounds like you've already got a couple pilot programs underway. So this will be elaborating on the work that you're already doing. It's not like we're starting from scratch.
I would just hope or just add that if the board approves whatever they're gonna approve here, that we just you invite me, or I'll invite you out, and we can go over a lot of what we talked about, like live.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Show you kind of like what we're dealing with. It's unique and it is specialized. But I liked your analysis about Christmas, because that's true. You don't want to build something for that, 4th of July weekend that, not that we have room to build it anyway, but I get it. You
Not
want
building for the US Open.
Right. You want to look at what is biggest conversation in every elected official is the traffic, and that's Monday through Friday. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. Tom, on those shots you have there, was there anything you wanted to point out?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I just wanted to print out pictures of the intersection so I could reference them as we talked about them today.
Okay.
Yeah, a little easier to see on a printout that size than
Yeah.
the tiny thumbnail that we've got up on the. On
And
the
also, we have to figure out too, once you get done, if we're gonna do what we suggest, because over the years, the last 30 years, have been a lot of studies, and the
Nothing
town
gets done.
Nothing has been done, and that's why we're sitting here.
It's true. It's true.
that's not on them, though.
No, it's on us.
We can help you. I mean, we can, present the findings to the public
You're
and.
under a lot of pressure.
Bill, I'm gonna
Challenge
say,
accepted.
there are other
Yeah.
times when there are studies done, and no offense to the elected officials there, but sometimes it's a way to get some space. Like, oh, we'll study that. We're here identifying these spots that every one of us knows needs a solution. And
And people have to
hopefully,
realize that.
if you guys come up with a solution and we can sell it to the public, then.
It's all about the money too, so that's the thing, but this board has been pretty committed to
Do
making
it the-
changes
We'll
and
put
funding.
we'll put the study in the
survey.
27, 28 budget.
And that is something else you do as well, is actually convene with the public to answer questions and present the data, which I think is also really good too. When it comes from experts and not us, so like we're,
Running.
You can bring us
why-
in as the
that's why I
bad
said you gotta
guys,
come
we can
out.
take
Well.
questions.
I'm on all sides of the table.
Well, we actually, we went to a CAC meeting and we heard from the people that said, well, it's great to hear that you're working with engineers. People want to know, like, we're consulting with people who are experts in this field. Like, I think they see that we're really focused on this, but they also want to see that we're consulting with people who understand what are the solutions.
But
What are the-
everybody in the audience is smarter than you. So.
Yes.
Well, that is the
We come prepared for
The
that.
tough thing with traffic is that everybody experiences it on a daily basis, so they feel
They
that
know
they
the
are
answer.
an
They know how to
expert.
solve it.
And in some ways, they are an expert. I mean, like the local knowledge you present about how commuters act. I mean, that's something that you guys know.
And can I also just add, I just want to say personally, I think it's great that you all came out. We didn't have you on the screen. I think
Yes.
I didn't even know that was happening. You might have said
You
it
know,
in an
we were
email,
surprised yesterday, we were chatting and.
but we appreciate that,
Yeah.
and I know the public appreciates that. I mean, it shows that you're committed to this, and we're thankful.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
you.
Like we said, it was actually a very easy trip out, and we'd be happy to do it again. Of course, we're on the other end of the phone or on Teams or Zoom for
All the time.
check-ins, but
Okay.
yeah, happy to make the trip.
All right, so we'll just get some additional feedback from Tom and from anybody else who has any other comments, and then we'll circle back with you about just amending the,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that sounds great.
in whatever way.
And then, yeah, as soon as we get that consolidated feedback from the group, it should be a pretty easy turnaround on our end, so we won't keep you waiting.
Yeah, you
on
were
an updated
saying, what did you
proposal.
say, 12 weeks or something?
Yeah, so we actually do have a timeline here.
This old Gantt chart.
And this is, you know, a tentative work schedule. This doesn't include the proposal and approval process, but, you know, from when you say go and from when we start our work together, it'll take about 4 weeks to complete.
I think I should say, from the time data collection starts.
Right.
It'll take 4 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because say like you approve us tomorrow, as we've just said, we're gonna wait until probably like April or May to do
Yeah.
the data collection.
Yeah,
That's really when the
mid-May,
shot
yeah.
clock starts.
Yep. And then, you know, we block out around 4 weeks for the analysis and around 4 weeks for concept development. And we can, you know, figure out a regular meeting schedule so that you're receiving updates and have more to share with
Yeah.
the community. I know that's an important piece of it, so all of that can be.
Building in like the regular check-ins, but also, you know, there'll be a touch base, a definite touch base when the data collection's done.
Great.
And then there'll be another definite touch base when we finish the analysis to just present at a high level where we think we're gonna go with the concepts. Because we only wanna prepare one concept. It would be great to touch base and be like, hey, here's what we're thinking about doing. And if you guys are like, that's a non-starter, we'll be like, okay, I'll talk about another concept. And then we'll start putting pen to paper. So
Okay.
those are definite check-ins.
And also, you want to also take into account if there's a major accident, like on Sunrise, a lot of people turn around and they go through the North Fork and come, or they just turn around and don't come that day.
During data collection.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah, I mean, the weather that's something that we keep track of, again, like,
And
if we know that
and the
there's
car
very
accidents.
inclement weather coming, then we'll avoid those days. Car accidents and
You never can tell.
things of those nature,
Yeah.
you kinda have to find out about them. Work zone traffic control, if we send the person out there and they're like, hey, there's cones everywhere, we'll probably pull them back, but car, collisions, events like that we would have to redo the data collection and we would
Yeah.
pivot accordingly.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for
Um,
coming. I
coming
hope
out.
you have just as pleasant of a trip back.
I know, I hope so too.
It's lunch
I was
first.
gonna
Yeah,
say, before we leave, we
definitely.
need a recommendation on a lunch spot. Is it Cromer's?
Oh, food is good there.
I
I was
thought
gonna say, it's a little bit out of your way.
taco place, but
That's good.
taco
The taco
place
place
is
over here
good.
is good.
down the
Okay,
street.
taco
that's what I was-
place.
And reasonable.
We'll talk more, but this is the week I like, May 11th to 15th. But again, we'll talk more if this works out.
You want to go there,
Well,
Tom?
that's so, would it make sense, I can talk more about that,
Yeah.
because I wanna make sure if that's when we'll talk more.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks,
guys.
Tom.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you too.
Are the seniors still in school on May 11th? Or are they taking their exams then?
Yeah, they're still there in May.
They're not in
Let's
exam.
see, is this a good place to leave my clicker?
Thanks, Tom. Thanks,
It's right on
everybody.
the desk there, it's fine.
We can look again, and I'll find out from the schools, but
Yeah, let's just check the school calendar.
They're not out till June.
seniors aren't out till June, right.
But I thought, I don't know, I just thought that there was a point when they're not going in every day, they're just going in once in a while for tests or something.
Usually June, when they have the regions, they don't go in every day.
Yeah.
That's in June.
First and second weeks of June.
We'll
Yeah,
verify
Like
it with the
school's in
schools.
session, but it's not normal.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so
Bye.
much. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to our updates from the,
You're dismissed unless you have something else.
oh, yeah, what are you still doing here?
Just dismissed
I wasn't going there.
mackerel.
I was gonna ask if you had any updates.
Hey, Charlie, got any updates?
Did you guys want me in exec session? or no?
I think he should be there for 5 minutes.
Yeah, you might just stick around for 5
Janice is
minutes.
coming in.
We do have,
Well, we can wait,
something on there
Janice
that-
can wait for 5
Janice
minutes.
is always a few minutes late.
Okay.
It's fine.
What time is that?
Right after this, we're just gonna do updates and head in.
See you in a little bit.
Was thinking of maybe getting something to eat.
Yeah, well,
Well, now you gotta wait.
get it and bring it in. I
We can
can't
get his
believe how
update-
much is
we
on
can
the
get his
agenda.
update, then talk to
Yeah.
him, then we go to lunch.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we start on this end today.
I just have two quick updates. One is actually, well, since we're talking about traffic, I did speak to Ann Welker. I want to thank all of the commercial fishermen at the dock that gave us letters of support for the county to make sure that Ponquag Bridge remains a priority. John Irwin from Parks gave us a letter, on how it impacts day-to-day operations at the beaches. And thankfully, we had all that on hand for Ann, and she has basically stated, because we all got concerned when Smith Point Bridge became an issue, and we didn't want money to get diverted since that was a one-way bridge now, and so Legislator Welker did check into it and did find out that Ponquag Bridge is a completely separate funding source, separate engineers, the whole thing, and it is, they understand that it's a priority, and it's not gonna get, put behind Smith Point now, so.
I think they allocated 7 million for that.
Yes.
They're partnering with the state, so it'll
Yeah,
get done.
And it should happen this spring, so that's a good thing.
Good news.
And then the other quick thing I had was I wanted to say a huge thank you to Dave Lippman from the Litter Crew. He picked up 37,600 pounds of garbage from beaches, roadsides, trails, and open spaces last year. Down slightly from 2024, but that's still a lot of garbage and a lot of litter on our roadways. But Dave does an amazing, he's a one-man crew.
He's a one-man crew.
And I mean, he
he's
started
amazing.
as a part-time position, and now he's got his truck, and he is out there, and it's like a game for him to find out how much litter he can collect.
And if you see him, give him a big wave.
Yeah,
Little people.
so that's all I had today.
Thank you. Bill?
Well, on the screen, you
Okay.
never know, there was a bowling there last week.
Wow.
This is in,
That's where public safety used to
Publix-
be.
Yeah, well, the old senior
Beautiful.
center years ago.
Love that. Nice job.
What do they cover that with, Bill? That just mulch of some kind?
I think so. I'm not quite sure.
Nice job.
Now we're just
Great
ready,
to get that done.
ready for,
Wow.
what we're gonna put to the new courts.
Now you can see, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
now you can see the outline of the West Hampton Community Center.
they're gonna pour the cement tomorrow for the foundation.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Very
It's gonna be a good
exciting.
spot.
Yeah, everybody's very motivated to get it done, these contractors. They're having every 2 weeks progress meeting.
That's great.
Then I went to Franklin last night, and they had a problem with the flag on the flagpole, and the highway and the Parks Department's gonna chip in together with their bucket trucks to fix the rope and put the flag back up for them and the pulley. It's teamwork.
Good,
in the
that's
neighborhood.
great.
Very
Thank you.
nice.
Let's see, we had a update on the Riverside Sewer Treatment Plant or wastewater treatment facility. And that's going well, and the engineer said he'll be able to get us the 60% design by the end of this month. And we should get the 90% design by June, and so they're really moving forward with it, and that's great news. And, and Councilmember Isilli and I met with Chris Clapp to talk about the South Shore Estuary Reserve and what their goals are and how, if any way, the town can be of assistance. So it was nice to meet with him and just hear what they're working on. And he's trying to coordinate with the Peconic Estuary Program.
Yeah, very nice.
Oh, yeah.
So the PSAs, me and Bill have scheduled PSA meetings with the Highway Department and the trustees office, and we're going to be sitting down with them and CTV and talk about what to highlight so that people can see some of the work that is ongoing with our trustees, with our Highway Department, and we'll also be branching out to all the other departments. So expect an email from me and Bill if you haven't received one yet. And we're really looking forward to doing some of that work.
That's great. So
Yeah.
would that go on the Sun TV channel?
Yes, and
Oh,
our
great,
social media
great.
channels
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, nice.
And also, Noyak Schoolhouse has a lot of furniture that's very old and deteriorating. So we're getting some
right.
new updated furniture in there with some chairs that people can actually sit on. So
Like the drapes, see how many people noticed the new drapes here?
Yeah, but,
Yeah,
you know,
just some new round tables, right? And
yeah, because they have their meetings there, the
chairs,
Noack Civic
yeah.
meets there, and, you know, there's a lot of, you know, people that use the chairs, and the chairs definitely they're all old and wobbly and wooden and breaking, so I want to thank the Noack Civic Council for advocating for that. And also,
and thanks to Peter Gaudiella for putting
and
it
Peter,
together.
yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Peter. You were very helpful. And I also want to say me and Councilwoman McNamara are teaming up with the Southampton Animal Shelter. Every year we try to do, Cindy and I try to do a drive. This year we're going to be doing a drive. We're doing a campaign called Help Vets with Pets. And we're going to be collecting dry dog food, cat food, canned dog food, canned cat food, seed mixes, pet treats, whatever you have that's for your pets that you'd like to donate for our veterans. You know, having a veteran being able to have an animal is something really important. And I don't know, Cindy, if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, but
Yeah, I mean, it's just a way to also get them involved with the shelter and hopefully, you know, link them up so that they have an access to potentially fostering animals or getting a pet themselves, you know, potentially with this and being able to know that there is support for you know, care items that they need for these animals, and they maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to have an animal because they can't afford, you know, the outsource for food and all of that. So, you know, the shelter is already doing this. They already provide this somewhat. It's more bringing a light to the fact that it does exist and helping our, you know, we're partnering also with the VFW and the American Legion.
Where's
so
the
that
drop-off points?
Michael
So, yeah, the drop off, there's several. So, you can drop it off here if you'd like, Town Hall. You could also drop it off at the Crohan Center. You could drop it off at the Hampton Bays Community Center. The Hampton Bays American Legion is also taking donations, and the West Hampton VFW. And
But not at the animal shelters?
Oh, you could
itself?
go to the animal
you
shelter.
can go to the animal shelter and drop off donations at any time. But these locations will certainly have a box out for our campaign, and we hope that everybody tries to help out. And we'll do a kickoff on that. When is that? That's
Such a cute picture.
is it
We
January
we
19th?
did the Heart of the Hamptons last year, and it really is also to bring awareness to the fact that so many people
Food
give and
insecurity.
are generous during the holiday season, and then donations tend to drop off to these organizations. So we wanted to bring a light to that last year. The kickoff
I
is,
think the 19th.
no, that's Martin Luther King Day.
Oh.
It's not on my calendar.
All right, we'll figure it out. But January 20th is when we start collecting, and
I
that
believe
goes.
the kickoff is on the 20th.
Okay, so it's on the 20th, and then we conclude the boxes on February 20th. So people will have about a month to get all their stuff together to help us. So,
Great.
yep.
Really nice. And Councilmember Neely and I went to the Watermill CAC, so I'm sure you'll mention that as well, right?
Yes.
In
Yeah.
your remarks?
Yes,
Okay.
we had a very productive meeting with the Watermill CAC, and I think they really appreciated the supervisor being there, as well as me, but they were very glad that she was there to talk to them and talk about the park. And, you know, there's work to be done there, but they were glad to, you know, get the update and to go over, you know, some of their other concerns. So that was productive. And kind of on the theme of helping people, I arranged yesterday, I went to the senior center with Kara Bach, you know, our head of community housing and community development, and met with Laura Pettit, who runs the facility there in Hampton Bays. And this is really, it's an impressive amount of work and caring that, you know, that they do. They take care of so many people, hundreds of meals, you know, and it's so nice to walk around to the different rooms and seeing the, you know, the groups that are knitting and the groups that are in the library and the groups playing bingo, you know, and then they're gathering, you know, for meals and sending meals, as you know, to facilities across the town. They're providing hundreds of meals to people every day. Went down, checked out the commercial kitchen, which was great, toured the whole place. You know, they do a wonderful job, I think, in taking care of the seniors. The transportation aspect, you know, which goes, you know, near and dear to my heart, and I really have to admire, you know, transportation is full of logistics and getting it right, and food service is full of logistics and getting it right. And, you know, they do both, and they get it right. And so this is just, and the companionship and the fellowship, and you see the caring of all of our employees, and helping those folks, and so many different programs. Anyway, it was a great visit, and this is just a shout out to Laura and to her staff and how well they serve our community.
And Laura, I just to piggyback on that, Laura does an amazing job, and the way that senior center works is because of the employees and how they're willing to drive a van or help out in the kitchen. They really do. I mean, they cross jobs. They do whatever needs to get done to get the day, going, because they never want to turn the seniors away, so.
Yeah, and it's so
It's kind of
important
a-
for the seniors to have that togetherness and fellowship with other people and not be at
Kind of
home
under-
alone.
It's under the radar screen, and it's kind of an everyday thing, but I think, the residents of this town, the taxpayers of this town, should be very happy to see and proud to see how well, those folks are taking care of our seniors.
It's important.
Well, good. So, anybody else have anything else to say? Nope. All right, then. I move to go into executive session to discuss confidential legal advice, litigation, and personnel matters, and then close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.